All right, we are live. Welcome. This is Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show. Okay, check this out, check this out, check this out. Welcome, everybody. It's Friday. It's Black Friday if you follow American retail. Black Friday means everybody doesn't know what that means. It means that I was a retail manager for 12 years. What that means is, wait, let me turn this banner off so you guys can see me here. I tell everybody this every year. There I am. So what Black Friday means in the retail industry, or to people, if you're anywhere in retail, and I'm sure your country is using the exact same methods that the Anunnaki taught everybody, and that would be to utilize, this holiday season because it's Christmas, and that everybody who's European descent celebrates Christmas. And then, of course, the people who were converted to Christianity, they took over Christmas as well. So that's say 2.5 billion people around the earth that claim to be Christians. So you guys would all be celebrating Christmas. So it's Black Friday. And here in America, I don't know if they do that in most of the other countries, but I'm pretty sure they do because it's retail. Same corporations own companies everywhere around the world. What that means is, what you guys don't know, is that in the retail industry, all corporations don't make any money. They lose money all year long from January until November. They are losing money, and they're in what's called the red. They owe money to investors. They owe money to banks. They are not turning a profit for having the stores open, shipping, handling, paying all the rent, lights, utilities, employees. They are not making any money. If it wasn't for retail, or if it wasn't for holidays, retail would not work anywhere on the planet. And literally, they have to drum up business for the holidays. So starting in like the 4th of July in America, but Halloween, and then going into Thanksgiving, and then after Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving is always on a Thursday in America every year. It's the last Thursday of November. They plan it so that they have the sales that go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3-day sales that are biggest sales of the year to generate business, because it is on Black Friday is the day, because of all the sales. So many people go out and shop this weekend that all of the retail companies will actually turn a profit for the very first time for the entire year. Fiscally, they literally start turning a profit now. And then because of them drumming up, first Halloween, then Thanksgiving here in America, and then the sales, Black Friday sales around the world, and then Christmas, and then New Year's, that's when they turn a profit. And that's how they make all their money. They make their billions and billions of dollars between October 1st and January 1st. That is where they make their money, because of the holiday season, and so they have all these holidays that they've lined up. That's why there's always a sale for everything, whatever it is in your country. Like you guys over in the UK have Boxing Day, and I'll guarantee you they have Boxing Day sales. They have sales for everything that they can think of, because they need to drum up business, because without it, people don't go and shop en masse and spend a ton of money. It's the holidays, and they drive you with all the programming. So I don't know if you're aware of that, or if they call it Black Friday in your country. But here in America, it's called Black Friday. And that it's literally as of today or tomorrow or Sunday, before this weekend's over, all the retail companies, if they're having a good year and they're not about to go out of business, they will literally be making money starting now. And they go into the black, which is a profit, from the red, which is red because it's emergency. We're not making any money. So that's how that works. And just in case you guys didn't know that, right? So hi, I wasn't looking at the chat. I apologize for that. Cassie's here. Welcome. Rick, I saw you. You were real quick, right? So Rick's here. Cassie's here. Anna's here. Hi, guys. If you're not out there and you don't say hi, I don't know you're here. So I just see numbers, and that's it. So if you talk in the chat, but if you're over on Twitter, because I'm live there, I don't think the chat comes into here. I got to check with StreamYard and find out what's going on there, because I know that some people watch the show there. It's starting to gain in popularity. Just me posting it there, I'm getting like 300 to 400 views on the show. So I know people, you guys are out there listening in on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it now. So welcome. We are live on YouTube this week. I remembered to do that. So we're only live on one place on Facebook, but I shared it to a couple places on Facebook. So now it's at least there. But if you guys share it as well, then we'll be involved in that. Okay, so I wanted to talk about that because who knows how many people are going to show up. Most people on the planet are still fat and sassy from Thanksgiving here in the United States. And then everybody's running out shopping. So those of you who are here, I love you. Thank you for actually being here on this holiday weekend here in America. Okay, so last week we're on session 29, and last week I backed up a couple of minutes. We ended with about 6.5 minutes left. I backed up because Dawn is asking Raw. He's about to ask Raw about gravity, and he just started doing that. And they were discussing the black hole, but now they're going to discuss that gravity is in fact spiritual in nature. So I wanted to back up and start with that again. Those two questions that we were working on last week towards the end of the session. So I want to start with that, and then we'll move forward from there. Pardon me. So yeah, start tagging some of these people and get them in here. Hey, Cassie's tagging people. Tag them and get them in here, man. Anna's doing it too, it looks like. So either way, just start talking to people and get them in here. So I always tell people, and there's not very many people saying this to anyone, okay? And I've noticed this. I understand that the gravitational pull of any planet is directly related to the spirituality of the beings residing there, all life, okay? The scientific community will not agree with me. They will not admit that. They cannot, because their money comes from a secular people that are in charge, that don't want anybody to realize spirituality, so therefore they can't talk about it. A lot of the scientists in the physics community are atheists, so therefore they don't want to believe it either. They don't want to. They won't even fathom this. These same people who say you have to be completely open-minded with figuring out the universe, and it's the only way you can ever figure out the universe is you have to be open-minded. Literally, when you say something about spirituality, they just get angry with you and shut off. They start sounding like Zahi Hawass from Egypt. You know, when somebody would say, I hear that aliens built the pyramids, he would yell at them, get angry and yell at them and tell them they were fucking stupid and that there are no fucking aliens. I've heard him do it. I was never there, but I've heard him do it. Other people that know, that have been there was like, dude, you got to see this. Zahi Hawass is going crazy. So the Egyptian government officially will not allow anyone any idea of any even a civilization being ancient, and that the pyramid was built for any other purpose besides it being a tomb for a pharaoh who was never put in there. so that they because their livelihood depends on it. Truly, their all of their money that they gain, that Egypt gains, is actually from the revenue of people coming. Sorry, I was getting a message on my phone. I was trying to figure out who that was. My phone's muted, but it still popped up that somebody was messaging me. It turns out it's my ex-wife, who's a Miami Dolphins fan, and they're playing today. I think because they must be playing. I heard that there was a game on Friday, so apparently they're playing because she said fins up in a text. So they get their revenue, all their money comes in from tourism coming from around the world, believing that these seven wonders of the world, which, you know, the Sphinx and the pyramids at Giza are two, but not to mention the whole entire operation that was the Egyptian empire going back as far as they know, which is, you know, older. There's only the Indians in India that have older. Well, now we know what Turkey, like different places there, and the Philippines, where we're starting to uncover this stuff, where people will let us see them, because China has pyramids too, and they won't let the world see them. They buried them so that nobody would be able to go and find them anymore. That's the truth of that. I have pictures of when they were unburied, and then pictures after they buried them. So literally the scientific community, like the Egyptian government and like many other governments who are secular around the world, they refuse to allow you to even fathom the idea. It's part of their little package that the Anunnaki had in that bag. Of the knowledge that they gained was to control your pineal gland. That's why they're holding onto the pine cone. They're not handing you information. They're actually controlling your pineal gland. That's what that means. And not allowing you to realize spirituality. So literally the gravitational pull of this earth, its density is created by the collective consciousness of the human race and other races that are on the planet. But when I say that, most people get scared and run away. but it is all life and all life forms on the earth that are spiritual or self-aware and spiritual, even more so. So literally, I'm gonna start playing that, and you guys can hear Ra answering the question back in 1981 to Don when he was asking the questions about gravity. And Don was a nuclear physicist. Okay, he was a renowned physicist. You can look him up. Look up Don Elkins, physicist, and you'll see that he's not like he was like Einstein or anybody really big, but he was very astute physicist. So for him, he also, when he first started researching, he wasn't sure what was going on, but he started because of UFOs. That's why the very first book, which is not part of the Raw series, the 6 books that are the Raw series, there was a book prior to that he wrote that was about UFOs. And welcome, Denise. Welcome, Penny. Hi, how you doing? Welcome, Lenora. I guess it's Lenore. Welcome, right? So literally his first book was about UFOs, and that got him onto the possibility of something else being out there in the universe, which a lot of guys in the science community did the same thing, and they kind of made this turn towards UFOs, and then that usually turns them towards spirituality as they go through. I did the same thing. I was going to be a physicist for somebody, NASA or somebody, until I realized, I started reading things like what's his name's books. He wrote Veal, and he wrote The Commanders, Bob Woodward. I started reading some of Bob Woodward's stuff when I was in college and started going, yeah, I was already kind of getting onto that, bro. And apparently, the governments are really up to no good. And I was already being chased around by the Air Force in the deep state since I was 11 when they tried to recruit me. So I was already on to the idea of why they wanted me to be recruited. So I quickly, by the time I was, 2021, I quickly was done with that and was nowhere near going to help them, because by that time I was already working for a government. I was working for the Irish government, but I was not working for the cabal, and I was already working towards setting up people around the earth to be able to set up coalitions so that we would have coalitions today. So I was working with the people all over the planet that were doing that and trying to do my part to help set that stuff up and to make that all possible, and also set them up with money, which I'm now doing again, and starting to work with people behind the scenes, setting up things as well to go forward in spirituality, not just being able to combat the 1% evil people on the planet for political reasons to gain freedom for everybody, but now to further that into the spiritual practice, because they're still stifling that. So, but first we had to get feet in the door in a 3D manner to be able to have a beachhead, and then we can move into the spiritual. And that's where we are now. We're in that phase, and have been since about 2015. We started moving into that and ramping up, getting ready for COVID, because we knew about it prior to it, because we had read all the memos that they had preparing their own people for this fake development that came out, that you guys don't believe, most of you out there, was in fact a fake or designed, which is okay. You don't need to. Right? The sky's blue, whether you like it or not. There is a creator of the universe, whether you believe it or not. And gravity is literally there because of spirituality, whether science wants to believe it or not. Doesn't matter. It doesn't change the fact that it is. And when people actually learn the actual knowledge of the universe, they go, oh, well, gravity is directly related to the heart chakra and spirituality of the actual people. And Ra's going to talk about that right now. So you like how I went all the way around the circle there? So Ra's going to talk about that right now. So I'm going to do a sound check and start this question. And so you guys let me know if you can hear it okay. And hopefully my microphone's working better. I realized last time that because I'm plugging in my ProGo or GoPro, whatever you call it, that it has a microphone, which is currently on, but I tried to default away from it. So if I sound like I'm a little bit away from the camera, it's because it defaulted back to this microphone again, and not the microphone on my computer. So I apologize, because that picks up the background noise a little bit too much. And I'm trying to be as far away from the television as I can, but I have to be able to visually see my mother, who has Alzheimer's, who I am her caregiver. So I have to be able to visually see what she's up to and what she's doing and making sure she's okay. which means that the sound from the living room is going to come in here. Because before, when she was okay and I could just leave her alone, I'd go in the office and close the door. Well, that's gone now. I don't have that option anymore. I could, but if I do, I have no idea what she's up to and she might escape. A couple of times she did, and I would have to leave the window open and go chase her. So I apologize for the sound of my microphone if that's the case of what's going on. And I'm going to have to get another camera again that doesn't have a microphone on it so that I can default away. But I tried to turn it on and default away. But sometimes when I'm not looking, the computer will just go click right back to it because of StreamYard. So if it sounds like I'm a little distance away, I apologize for that because that's where we're at, right? Right? No, I agree. Lenore says you might need a baby monitor. No, truthfully, if I had, then you guys would hear that. So the truth is, if I had a baby monitor and was listening to it, I would have to have an earpiece specifically for the baby monitor. Otherwise, that would be close by and you guys would hear the television coming through the baby monitor. I agree, right? It's almost like that. Okay, I'm going to do a sound check. I'm going to start the question here, and then you guys let me know if you can hear it okay, if I have to turn it up or turn it down, and then we'll just jump right into this. He's going to be asking, and he is asking. He just asked about a black hole and what that energy entailed, and that's when Ra said that the black hole is created because of spirituality and the spirituality of the beings. And so there's a theory really quickly. I'm going to run down that if have anything to do with physics. There's a theory that some of us had already came up with that a black hole, because of the Einstein-Rosen bridge, which is what we call a wormhole. We believed that the black hole was in fact a wormhole that you either could go into and go somewhere else, or it was a wormhole that was spitting stuff out. So that literally we believe, some of us started getting onto this years ago, and it's become a pretty prominent theory that say that when the Big Bang happened here, everything came through a black hole. So it was literally like the universe or a different universe was too full. And then we just came into a new universe, which actually goes in line with cellular structure and how the division of cells happen. And it happens the same way. And the universe seems to be working on the same physics that we know that is down here, as below, so above. So some of us in the spiritual world start to realize that the universe is just expanding the same way that its single cell structure splits into 2 and then 4 and then 8 and then 16 and then 32. And that is exactly what's happened here. And in the black hole is a pathway between those cell membranes in either inside of one cell where you have multiple structures already in there getting ready to divide out from that, or otherwise. And the scientific community doesn't want to have any part of that because that suggests that it is spiritual, and moreover that the universe that we are in is in fact a cellular structure, that we're inside a cell of something much, 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 much larger than ourselves, quite possibly inside the brain of the creator itself, right? That they don't want to have any idea of. So everything has to be mundane, third dimensional. So they won't fathom any of that. And that's why they can't figure anything out, because they have to blow shit up, to create energy. Although I hear tell they know about that, and other people have shown them. So they do have access to free energy, but that took people actually just doing it in front of their face before they were able to get control of it and take it from them, which is what they do. That's why I stopped working on anything, because I realized that they do that. Okay, I'm going to hit play here because we went from black holes to now moving into, wait, what? The energy of spirituality has something to do with the gravitational pull, and that's what Dawn is now asking Ra about. Okay, so here we go.
29.20 questioner. Thank you. Then when our planet Earth here gets fully into fourth density, will there be a greater gravity? Ra, I am Ra. There will be a greater spiritual gravity, thus causing a denser illusion.
Okay, so literally, hopefully you heard that okay. No, I don't see anybody saying anything in the chat to let me know if you guys could hear that, or even me. Thank you, Denise. I know there's a lag, so I had to wait. But okay, so literally you heard that. So Dawn is on to the idea and says, so then when we fully move into the fourth density, will we have a denser gravitational pull? And Ra's very specific here, talking about spiritual gravity. Okay, saying those words, spiritual gravity. You heard that. So literally, we will have a denser field of gravity. But here's the thing: when that transition happens, it's like when you go down underwater, and you go deeper and deeper and deeper. And what happens is you have a denser amount of pressure being put on your body. Our bodies, we have blood pressure, and without pressure from this atmosphere, we would pop because our body is literally pushing out. Our heart is pumping and is creating a blood pressure, which is actually pushing out because we are being bombarded with energy. So if it just turns off, then quickly our body can pop, and that's what happens when people go down to a depth. And they don't explode, but when they go down to a depth, it's called the bends. And when they go down to a depth and come up too fast, the pressure changes and gets less and less and less, and the body doesn't have time to stop pushing harder. And what happens is all the blood vessels in your body that have oxygen in them explode. And that's called the bends, and it can kill you. So when guys go down, but the other way around, you can go down underwater and go deeper, 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 and your body compensates very quickly for it by adding more pressure to your body to not get crushed until a certain point, and your body can't overcome it anymore. And that's the terminal depth. You have to be inside of a vessel, and even they had back in the day had a terminal depth. So if you were in a submarine and you got too deep, it would crush the submarine, and everybody inside would die from the weight. But on the way up, if you weren't pressurized inside the submarine, when you started coming back up, you would get the bends. So they had to learn to pressurize the submarines to this pressure that we're in now, and then have a boundary where they were pushing out that nobody was involved in, that would keep the thing from getting crushed, but keep the environment steady here. Environmental controls in the submarine so that everybody in there stayed at a regular atmosphere that would be the same as being up here where we're walking around now. I know this is all crazy physics that you guys are probably going, why is he telling me this? I don't know any of this, or I don't care. So yeah, well, I don't know what the exact, Rick says, what is that depth? I don't know exactly what that depth is. I know that it is quite a ways down. It's a couple of miles for submarines down. In the water, you can go down into the earth deeper, and the pressure is not as great. The water itself has weight and pressure. So the further you go in the depth, that's like if you've ever dove into a pool, and it's really deep, 20 feet or 15 feet or something more than 8 feet, because in 8 feet, it's kind of hard to detect it. But some people have ears that are very sensitive. And you go down really deep, really fast, you'll feel the pressure in your ears, and you feel like your ears are going to pop or implode. That's usually, you feel it in the eardrums more than the rest of the body, because the rest of your body is quickly changing for you. And that's just like, have you ever done something where you've gone up or down really fast, and you have to pop your ears because the pressure change? Like if you're flying, if you've ever flown in an aircraft, the same thing will happen because of the change in altitude and the change in pressure. So I don't know exactly what that depth is. I don't remember now, but I know that it's about a mile or two. It's quite a ways down before your body will be crushed. And the same thing for submarines, it's a couple of miles down. So there's always a worry when people, that's like that submarine that happened here a couple of months ago. I don't know if you guys heard about that. The American submarine was going down in the water and they imploded. That happened because of the anti-pressure system that was supposed to keep them from imploding failed, and they went too deep and it crushed them and they all died instantly. They didn't find that out until like a week later when they found the wreckage, because they were going down to the Titanic, and the Titanic is so far down that if you don't have that device that repressurizes the cab, it will destroy everybody's, like a tin can being smashed by your hand, or aluminum can being smashed by your hand. And that's exactly what happened to those guys. So I believe it's because that was the Titanic is down more than a mile and a half. So it's got to be at least that, because that's what happened to them. Okay, so if you guys can hear, then I'm going to go ahead and press play, and I have to go and physically stop my mother. She's picking and scratching herself, and she scratches herself till she bleeds, and then when it tries to heal, she keeps picking at it, and she's currently with her hand sticking up in the air and her other hand in her armpit, so I have to go and stop her from doing that. So I'm going to press play, and I'll be right back.
29.21 Questioner. This denser illusion then I will assume would increase the gravitational acceleration above the measured 32.2 feet per second squared that we now experience. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. Your entities do not have the instrumentation to measure spiritual gravity but only to observe a few of its extreme manifestations. 29.22
See, so truthfully, we don't have the ability to measure it because nobody believes in it. So they're not looking for any ways to actually look at it. Some people are doing it in private, but they don't get, if they try to get published, then, the scientific community goes after them and discredits them. So, because again, that if they were to prove that, that would change the minds of everybody on this earth to going, wait a minute, spirituality? What is that about? And then they would look to people like myself and all the people, some of you that are in the crowd that I work with, and we would be answering questions. And then they would be, people around the world would literally say, wait a minute. So you guys know about this? Yes. Everybody who has tapped into the Akashic record or the halls of Amente, whatever you call that, whatever you know it is, the records of this world and the universe itself and how things work, that you unlock this. So it's not like something that I came up with and it's a theory that I think. Someone can try and say that, but I'm not the only one who knows this. Everyone who's awake enough knows this. So this is what, in fact, we're going to be live again tomorrow on Jacqueline Taylor's show on YouTube, and I think we'll share it to Facebook. Or we'll be on Izzy Kelly's page on Facebook and on YouTube on her page live. And we're going to be talking about spirituality again. So there's a very large portion of the population of this earth, millions of people on this earth that know this knowledge and have been trying to teach this to all of you for a very, very long time, thousands of years, going all the way back to people that you know in history like Jesus and Muhammad and Moses and, and more than that, these gods that they say are not real, like Odin and Thor and Freya, and move on to any god, Vishnu and Ganesh and, whatever, Zeus, Apollo, all of those what they call myths that were not real gods, which were enlightened people that would be considered not the creator of the universe, but below that. So some you hear back in the day, they were called demigods. And then they got downsized to, they weren't gods at all. They were just fake. The whole thing is a myth. And that's what the seculars do around the world. And I talked about that last week and the week before. And I talk about it a lot. I talk about it in my book as well that's coming out. Who knows when that's going to come out now, right? We were hoping to get it out before the end of this year, but I haven't even heard from the editor. So I'm sure it'll be sometime in December when I get the first draft. Then I have to go through that. But literally, we know about this stuff and this information, and we've been trying to tell it. And we're trying to show you how everybody in history has been trying to show you this exact same thing. And they have been trying to eradicate all ideology and knowledge of spirituality and make you think, well, there's one place that you are, and that's here. And if you're good after you die, then you go to one place and it's called, and then there's a name for it, heaven, Elysium, Valhalla, Asgard. They have different names for different religions, but there's only one life, and then you go there and it's the afterlife and you're immortal forever. And they'll let you believe that. But they'll also tell you, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is sit down and wait, because here's all the places where they claim they're going to come back and get you. And I'm a minister of 4 different religions, and I have been researching spirituality and religions my entire life. Okay, so I'm a theologian. I don't have a doctorate in it, right? But then you didn't need a doctorate in anything until about like 75 years ago. Because before that, for the million years that humans were around before that, you either knew something and you didn't know it. But then secularists decided, hey, we can make money off of that. So therefore, we can say they don't know anything unless we say they do. And that way they control the narrative of who gets to be known. And that's how they stifle anybody that they don't like, is they just go, we're not going to certify that person. And if anybody certifies that person, will ruin your life. And that's the way things are now. Ask anyone who has come to the United States from a foreign country and they were scientists and doctors and anything else in their own country and have doctorates. When they come here, they go, we don't accept that here. You have to go to our schools and pay our hundreds of thousands of, if not millions of dollars to be in our colleges, then we'll give you credit for and say that you know what you're talking about. It's the honest truth. And if you are out there listening and you're in any way somebody who came from a foreign country, I'm sure it's that way in the UK, everywhere where these people are in charge, I'm sure they do the same thing. I know that you can't go to Australia. No one can, unless you can show them that you're going to benefit the government by giving them money. So you have to have money to go there, or you have to have money and you have a business and prove that you're going to stay there and give the government money, or they don't let you come into the country, right? That's just like Ireland. Although so many people left the country, I'm Irish. So many people left the country that to come back in there, they didn't want, especially Americans, to show up over there and start ruining the place, which happened anyway because they let people come in from all the rest of Europe, and they just came in from over there instead of the United States. But you literally have to prove your DNA and that you can trace your family lineage back to Ireland, which I have done. I've traced my family lineage on all sides back to Ireland. Literally my grandmother, my grandfather on my mom's side, my grandmother, my grandfather on my father's side, and trace them all the way back to show that I can go to Ireland. So I can walk up with paper and go, I want to move here. Here's all of my credentials showing you that I'm actually a bloodline descendant, 2 generations, 3 generations removed, and 4 on one side and 3 on the other. And then I can move to Ireland if I wanted to. Well, now I don't want to move there because it's no different than the state of California. The same progressives are running Ireland and ruining that place that they're doing here in this country and over here. And it's just now because the progressives are the bad guys. They used to be the good guys for the last 45 years or 50 years. And now they're the bad guys. That's just the flip of the dynamic in the religion, because everybody was all of a sudden, we're all following the progressives over here because they're the good guys. And when they got everybody convinced that they were the good guys, then they flipped on them. And then it's taking another 20 years for people to go, wait, hold on, they're not anything like they used to be. And when people get old, they just stay with what they know. And that's what they're counting on. Okay, so let's get back into Ra and what Ra was talking about. But all of that, what I was just talking about, has to do with why no one believes in spirituality as a thing, and why the science community cannot be allowed in any way to study that and know anything about gravity being anything to do with spirituality. So let's continue with what Ra was talking about here.
Questioner, this I know, that we can't measure spiritual gravity, but I was just wondering if the physical effect would be measurable as an increase in the gravitational constant. That was my question. Ra, I am Ra. The increase measurable by existing instrumentation would and will be statistical in nature only and not significant. 29.23 Questioner, okay. Now, as the creation is formed, as the atoms form from rotations of the vibration which is light, they coalesce in a certain manner sometimes. They find distances, interatomic distances from each other at precise distance, and produce a lattice structure which we call crystalline. I am guessing that because of the formation from intelligent energy of the precise crystalline structure, that it is possible by some technique to tap intelligent energy and bring it into the physical illusion by working through the crystalline structure. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct only insofar as the crystalline physical structure is charged by a correspondingly crystallized or regularized or balanced mind/body/spirit complex. 29.24 Questioner.
Okay, hold on. Let me look at what you were saying there, Anna. You were asking something. I'll put my glasses on. Okay, let me find out what you were talking about, because you want me to answer that. Let me see where you were at here. I'm trying to figure out, throw the question up there, guys, please, because I'm trying to figure out what you were talking about that you wanted me to answer. What does that mean? Leo, can you explain this, please? So I need to know what you're asking. I don't see a question anywhere above that. Anna says, and let's see, too funny, I was questioning the same thing. So let's see, let me go back beyond that, or ask the question again in the chat, guys, so I know what you're talking about. Yeah, Rick did say backpackers who want to must do 88 days in hospital or farming. Yeah, see, so that's for one. But yeah, ask the question again, Anna, so I know what you're talking about, and I'll explain if I can. Maybe Cassie, you can answer, but I need to know. Yeah, so are you talking about, see, I have to go back far enough, because Cassie said, are you talking about, let's see. So Leo, this is the reason that that of late I feel consistently dizzy, like floating out of my body. Yeah, that has to do with astral projecting and spirituality of this time of year, actually, but also astral projecting, floating out of my body. That I feel weightless. I know it's not medical. No, if you're not grounded properly, then that happens. You start getting that feeling when you're ascending, right? You start feeling that because you are actually moving out of the physical body into the spiritual. So if you're starting to get that, and if you start, check your pulse and those things, and you'll find that like your ego will make you freak out, and your heart will start beating faster, because then you're like, oh my God, you start panicking. But usually, like you said, if you're checking and making sure that your blood pressure is not high, but that's usually a pulsing that you hear in the ears, and you can actually hear your own heartbeat and things like that. But generally, when people start getting that kind of feeling, that's where you're starting to reside outside of your body. So you're actually becoming aware of yourself being not in the physical body, but someplace else. And so you start feeling like you're floating all the time. That's what we're trying to achieve. You just have to get used to allowing yourself to feel that. That's where you're actually trying to get to. And that's part of when I do that 30-second meditation, where I start to get you to realize your consciousness is still there and still active when you're not thinking in the thinking mind, and your ego can't talk to you and the mind can't talk to you. And there you are being the observer, the witnesser, the experiencer. That's your soul, and you're experiencing your soul outside of the body. It's at that point when we do that, we're pulling you out of your physical lower three chakras, through the heart chakra into the upper three chakras. And that's when you start residing outside of your head. That's why when I'm talking, sometimes I start channeling and I'm going, wow, man, I'm like way up here. That's literally because I'm feeling that I'm outside. Right now I'm doing it. As I'm talking to you, I'm pulling myself further out of my body. So I'm here and I'm looking through my eyes, but my consciousness doesn't think that it's inside my body at all. My consciousness is becoming aware of itself way up here. And that's what's starting to happen to you when you start having that feeling. That's just the same as if you're laying in a bed and you start meditating, or somebody's working with you and you start realizing you feel like you're floating up towards the ceiling. The first thing that usually happens is that you find yourself, and that's when people have the out-of-body experiences and sometimes near-death and NDEs, the near-death experiences. And it's because truly you're not actually physically in this body. You're actually out of it. And so what happens is you become aware of that and you move out of the body. And so now you're floating up at the ceiling, looking down at your body. That's where you actually are at all times. That's why when your third eye opens up for the very first time, it's looking straight up, because that's where you actually are. It's looking straight up, and you have to teach it to look at the perspective of your eyes. And the truth is, it doesn't want to, because that's not your actual perspective. Your actual perspective is third person, top down. That's where your actual perspective is. So what you're having happening is you're feeling yourself there, and you're not quite sure because you're trying to hang on to the physical body, because this place is trying to hold on to you. So you're like, I'm not supposed to be out there. You actually are supposed to be out there, but your body is going to tell you, and your ego is going to tell you you're not supposed to be, because it can't have you do that. Because the more that you're up here and out there, the less that they can get in contact with you and scare you or pump up your ego, pump you up by going, you're the greatest in the world, you know everything. That's where all that comes from. There's a difference between confidence and ego. Until you're a long ways above this, you will still have an ego. And so that's why, people, especially Europeans, they get mad at Americans when we say check your ego at the door, because they're like, I don't talk to those people because you need your ego. And I'm like, your ego is getting mad right now because somebody's triggering your ego and you're getting upset about it. And so you should actually look into that, because you're like, those people aren't awake at all. And anybody who does that and they're judging you, they're not as awake as they think they are, or they wouldn't be judging you at all. So whenever somebody gets angry with me, because the Europeans are usually a little bit more advanced than Americans, but because Americans are really the guinea pigs and the lab rats, and you guys over in Australia seem to be having the same issues of your government being just as bad and worse now because they're getting away with it. And same with the Canadians, worse now because they're getting away with it. Very totalitarian in the way that they're acting. I'm not saying that the American government isn't attempting that or doing it, because they are. And so's all the governments. They're all trying to keep everybody from waking up. And it's going to get worse as time goes. They're going to get more and more aggressive and more violent. as people wake up, but they can't do anything about it, and they're fighting. They're in their death throes. Their masters have left long ago, and they know that their masters have left long ago, and they know that those who were stranded here before, that was where the penal colony came from, because they were stranded here. Not all of us. It was just the Atlanteans when there was a war of the gods, civil war, and the good guys stranded the bad guys here and left. And the bad guys had just tried to kill off the human race because they weren't supposed to be doing what it was that they were doing. I'm not going to get involved in all of that. That'll take too long. Okay. But the point is that, so Leo is so much better at explaining that. I have literally I was baptized with Leo, and Saint Leo is the spoken word, and you know what I mean? The saint of the speaking word and talking to people, communication. So that wasn't my choice. That was the nun said that she wanted that. And I wasn't going to argue with her because that she was very awake. So I chose Gabriel, which is also God's messenger, and then she chose Leo. So I was baptized with both names, right? So my name is literally Leonard Edward Gabriel Leo O'Neill, my Christian name. So literally, what you're starting to feel is the sensation and realization of being in this place and residing in that place, and note all of the things that are different there when you feel that the floating sensation. Realize at that point, start to pay attention how much of my thinking mind is communicating with me, how much of my ego is communicating with me. And when your ego gets afraid and senses that you're starting to gain control of yourself, the ego will say everything it can say to scare you and try to scare the body into heart racing or anything that can panic you, so that you focus on the here and now down here and ground yourself here. But you get used to being there, and then you have to tell the body to relax because it's okay. The body doesn't think. The body just does. The body's designed just to be. So you have to tell the body, don't listen to the ego, because the ego is going to go, oh my God, there's got to be something wrong. You must be dying. You must be dying. You need to stop what you're doing. Come down here and check your pulse and talk to a doctor and find out. And then doctors, of course, are going to immediately, you're ringing in your ears. Well, that's a high blood pressure. Take this pill and this pill and that pill and this pill. And then immediately they try to turn off your third eye. They try to dumb you down. They try to literally make you a zombie and pull you back down into this place. You better take those for the rest of your life, or you'll just die. You'll die if you're not on this medication, because they want you to believe that. And some of the doctors believe that because they have been convinced with going to the schools and being brainwashed that anything that is spirituality has to be possession of demons if they're religious. And if they're not religious, then it's blood pressure problems, mental issues. You need to take this drug that's going to turn off your third eye and any kind of thought process and make you a zombie. That's what they do. Up to and including, well, I hear voices. Well, we better silence those voices then. We can't have something we're not in control of talking to you. So immediately they're like, those voices tell you to do things like a buck authority and maybe, and then they start, is it harming yourself? Well, the ego will do that. If you're about ready to start not paying attention to the ego will start talking to you and try to get you to equate it with a different personality, and sometimes many, because that's the way of keeping your attention and keeping you locked into here, even if you think you're crazy. I'm not saying that there aren't mental disorders, but what I'm saying is that most people who have mental disorders would have been a prophet a couple hundred years ago, okay, by the same very people. And they would be going to those same very people, would be going to them, these people that are in charge now, going to them and asking them questions to give them answers, okay? But if you're not giving them answers, then you're crazy. Do you see? So if you're not their pet and they don't control you, then they have to stifle you. But if you're willing to sacrifice that and be whatever they want you to be, they'll make you all kinds of rich, and they'll have you telling everybody all kinds of secrets because they can't do it themselves. And they know that. Okay, so hopefully, let me put my glasses on because you guys are talking. Hopefully that answers your question, and then we'll get back into spirituality. But it has to do with all of that. As you ascend, and you start to get outside of the place, which is where we're trying to achieve, to learn to recognize yourself higher up in your vibration, outside of the place of this third dimension. And we're trying to get you, because this is what you need to do and what you're supposed to be doing naturally, is get yourself into a position to where you're constantly in that meditative state in the higher realm, outside of this physical body, just attached to it, and be aware that I am not this body. I am not this thinking mind. I am not the ego. I am the observer. I am the experiencer, and I am above this. I am so far, in fact, I am halfway through the sixth dimension. So we're in the third. So 3 dimensions higher than this is where I actually reside, and you all actually reside. And that's the first anchor point. That's why it's called half heaven, because that's the first anchor point. And then there's another anchor point, but I can't get involved in that because that's information we're not supposed to know at all. So I can't discuss it, because once you get into the 8th dimension and density, then you don't get to know what's going on from the 8th up unless you're there. So even those of us who have an idea of what's going on, and don't let anybody fool you, like, I'm from the 12th density, 12th dimension, I can tell you all the secrets to the universe. They can only tell you the secrets to the universe that you're ready to hear and that you can fathom. So they're not. So there's a 187,000 million trillion gazillion levels before you get to heaven. I mean, I can make that shit up. Let's just say that it's not true. Okay, there's only 12. Okay, that's it. There's only 12, but there's a million gazillion trillion little levels in between each one, right? But there's only 12. Okay, you go back to the 1 when you finish 12 and go into the 13th. The 13th is the 1. That is going past the void and into the creator. That I can tell you, because people are actually aware enough at this time in life. This would have been when Jesus was here. He could only say that the kingdom of heaven is up there, that my God's kingdom is in another place up there. And that's as far as their understanding as an entire species would allow 2,000 years ago. Well, this is not 2,000 years ago. And it's a good thing, in my opinion, that the species has evolved so that I can tell the concept of there are 12 levels before you go back to the creator. And some people will tell you there's many levels. There's 33, there's 187. And I'm like, how do you know that? Where did you get that information from? Because it wasn't the Akashic Records. Because I don't know anybody who's actually tapped the Akashic Records that will say those words. It's always people who have these theories, just like right now, there's people in the Christianities. And in that, I was watching a commercial for a guy who's got a book that's going to tell you about the rapture. And he's like, literally, and they show you in the commercial, humans are just going to disappear off the earth. And if you see that happening and you're not one of them, you're the left behind. Panic, buy my book. Right. And they literally show you in the commercial that people will be sitting there and they'll just disappear. Their body just gone. Some woman's pushing a cart and then she's no longer pushing the cart. Oh, so now her baby's going to die. That's what God's going to do, is just leave the child there to starve to death and die unless other people take care of it because mom just jacked out. See, that's just doesn't make any sense. The creator wouldn't do that. The same thing with, what if I'm the pilot of a 747 and have 400 passengers on the plane, and me and the co-pilot both just, rapture, we're gone. Plane goes down and crashes into a building like the World Trade Center and kills 5,000 people because 2 of us hey, screw you. You're the left behind. Fuck you guys. You guys just get whatever the consequences are because you're evil. That is what they're selling you. Think about this now. So they're like, if you don't buy my book and become one of the ones that are going to be enraptured, you're going to be the left behind. Those same people will keep preaching the 144,000. There is 7.9 billion people on this earth. And I'm to believe that God's only going to take up 144,000. So if that's the case, guys, there's a 100% possibility that none of us are that 144,000. Okay, so if that's the case, and this is why they tell you that, if that's the case, then you're going to go, then why the fuck do I even care? I'm just going to live here. That's what they're trying to preach to you. Okay? Every single soul is supposed to graduate. There's not going to be a time, I would love to think that will happen, but there's not going to be a time when 3/4 of the planet just up and ascends, unless these people have their way in the physical and they blow the hell out of the planet and murder 3/4 of the population so that they get recycled. yeah, then yes. Because usually the way it's supposed to work when you recycle, and then we'll get back into raw talking about it. When you're supposed to recycle, you're supposed to be gone for 100 years. So if they killed off 3/4 of the population, the population wouldn't come back immediately the next day. So you wouldn't have all of a sudden, 2 billion people being born. It takes almost 100 years to replenish. So they know that. They know this information and how it works. So if they kill you, by the time you come back, the person who murdered you is dead of old age, so you can't take your revenge on them. And you have a good possibility of not knowing anything anyways, because you're going to come in veiled again. So they shut you up knowing this person's way too awake. We need to shut them up. And if they can't shut you up, then they tried to kill you. And that's what they did in the past, because they knew it would take 100 years before you'd get back here again. Okay, so all they had to do was hunt down anyone who was awake and murder them over and over and over and over every time, and then tell their descendants. If somebody shows up, that was the purpose of talking about what was that called? Back to the Future, when he went back in time and told himself in the future, some kid's going to come around asking, you need to kill him as soon as he gets here. And that was warning about Marty McFly trying to come and stop him from getting the magazine that he had to win all the money to take over basically half of the United States with his power. And solidify that. I mean, that's the same. Most of you think that has nothing to do with that, but it actually does. The writers of that, people that are awake saw that and went, that's literally warning, getting people not knowing about it, but warning them that that's actually what's going on. That the rich and the elite are saying you need to end those people as soon as they pop up. They tell their grandkids and their great grandkids and whoever they're still alive, and then they die. And literally they're hurting themselves as well, because people will try to tell you that they know and they're orchestrating so that only their people come back through. And that's just not true. If it were, then there wouldn't be people like Bill Gates who popped up or Mark Zuckerberg who popped up and became rich. It would always only be these families. So it's just the evil that they can bring into, and they try to, by doing rituals and things like that, control the DNA to create people who are evil, and then they try to make you evil. And if you're not, then you're an outcast in the family, or they get rid of you. And they only keep the ones that are evil. It's not the same souls recycling always into the same families, but they'll want you to believe that. They do want you to believe that. So someone who was part of their family like 5 generations ago could now be fighting against them, because they've decided, you know what, I'm either I want to be in control and they're alive now, and they're fighting against the clans because now they're trying to usurp power. And what happens is then they try to identify that. And if they do, then they're like, oh, wait, okay, you were like my great grandfather. Okay, you can come in. And then they make you part of their thing. That's what they did with Bill Gates. That's what they did with Mark Zuckerberg. And that's what they do with people who are just as evil as them once they realize it. First, they control you, and then they try to figure out if you're actually one of the souls or not. And they put you into their pantheon once again in this generation. I shouldn't be getting into that too much, because some people are going to run away and think I'm talking politics and get mad at me and get triggered by their conditioning. Right? So now you guys you're talking in the chat. I'll have to read that and see what's going on. What's with the capitals, Pennies? She's in capitals. That makes sense that they fight against them now. Yeah, well, no, that does happen. That's why you capitalize that. No, because that does happen. Because if I came back and I was evil once, and I'm the one who started this thing, say I'm the one who took control 3 generations ago, and I was the most evil, and then I died, and I come back and say this is the first time I've come back, and I'm still evil, I'm pissed off now because I don't own all of that. So I'm going to want to do the same thing I did and take control, because I'm evil and I want that power. So I'm now going to have to be the enemy of my own grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, because and if I'm not aware enough to realize that, and then if I am, how do you convince them? Look, I'm Chinese now, right? And I know you guys are the Rothschilds, so you're German. And I'm Chinese now, but I'm your great-great-grandfather. They're going to go, yeah, okay. Yeah, let's just kill that guy off and let him come back again. So what happens is then that's what causes the issues. And they're aware of that, but they don't want to be, because reincarnation also spawns in their own people the idea of freedom, the idea of the possibility of spirituality. So they can't even tell their own kids that Grandpa's back and he's pissed, because he used to be Vlad the Impaler, and now he's Qui-Gon Jinn, but Qui-Gon Jinn wasn't evil, but you know what I'm saying. So literally that's how empires change and fall. And this is why you have different people that rise and take control in different generations. It's all the same 14% evil people, or anyone who chooses to be that, because we all choose that. We all have to be all of that. You have to be. In fact, there was a going around from what's her name? I can't remember her name. That woman, and she, the older woman. I think she's passed on now. I've quoted her. I've taken some of her quotes and made reels with them. She was talking about that. I can't think of her name. I apologize. But she was explaining that to everybody, that you're going to, people sometimes get mad and go, no, I was a man every single time. No, you weren't. You have to be a man and a woman. You have to be good and evil. You have to live on all of the continents. So you have to be every race. So I just happen to be this race in this lifetime. It doesn't mean that this was the only race that I ever was. And I don't think that. And anyone who thinks that, I always come back as a white male. No, you don't. You just did this time. But your ego is telling you that you've always been a white male. The truth is you haven't. And you've always been, you might remember in the beginning of your memories, you might remember yourself, the life as a male, if you're a male, or a life as a female in different lives. That'll be the first inkling into reincarnation. With you'll get the same sex memories first. And then as you go and progress, then you start going, wait, I was a man that time. Wow. Okay. And then I was a man that time, and I'm a woman this time. And so that happens as you progress. But in the beginning, your first inkling of reincarnation is the same sex that you currently are at the time now. That's because it's comfortable and doesn't freak you out and scare you. So once you open up your mind to the possibilities, then you open up your mind to the infinite possibilities of the infinity. Then you start going, well, was I ever a guy? And then all of a sudden, oh, wow, I was. Right. And then you're okay with it. But if the first one comes up and you were a man and you're a woman now, you're going to go, what the fuck is that? Is that a haunt? Some old dude is haunting me. And, right. But I think I know who he is. Sometimes that comes through that way and scares people. And it's not you're being haunted by somebody. That must be my great grandfather and he's haunting me. And then when you come to find out later, it's not. It's just you having a memory of yourself 2 generations ago. Okay. So Ra was talking about the spiritual density of the 4th dimension, the 4th density, and it becomes more dense because as you move up in the spiritual, your spiritual body becomes more dense and your physical body becomes less dense. So when we move to the 4th, you won't have a body that is so thick and dense as the one that you have here. You'll actually have the body that we have in the 4th dimension is a little bit less dense than this, a little bit more frail. And then it'll go away. Eventually you'll lose your legs and you'll just be floating around and you'll be a torso and an upper body. And you keep your arms for quite a while, but then they go as well. But they go when everything else goes and your torso is see-through and then your skull stays because you identify with being out through these eyes and through the brain, even though it's the heart. And the heart will always stay. So your chakras always stay until they merge into one globe of ball of light. And that's quite a ways away. Tina, welcome. So that's quite a ways away. By that time you're into halfway through the 6th dimension or density. And truthfully, by the time you get through the 4th, going into the 5th, you're mostly non-physical by that time, but I'm not going to get into that because it depends on where you go. Well, that will because everywhere you go is going to be completely different. Because like if we leave this planet and go to a planet on the other side of the universe, all the laws of physics will be completely different. Over there, you could still be a human, and the sky could be red, and you could be a human that is purple, dark purple. And your voice sounds like 5 octaves really high, like because there's too much helium. Like now, if you inhale helium and you have that really high pitched voice, you sound like the chipmunks. That could be normal. That could be a deep voice there. So things will change, and then the density of the planet's going to change. So, but when you're born there, you're automatically accustomed to it because the body that you're born into is accustomed to it. So you won't notice. If you die here and transition to the 4th, when you're born into that body here on Earth, the gravitational pull is going to be thicker. But you won't notice it. You won't go, oh, I remember when I was there last time. And it wasn't until you wake up and access those memories. So if you come through awake, you'll be telling your parents that and how things work there. You'll have a better opportunity for your parents to go, that's because you just came from the 3rd dimension, than you would hear of your parents going, that's because you were a cat last time. right? So you have a far less chance of people being aware enough to tell you that in this life than you do in that life. And it becomes easier as you go up. And so your advancement becomes very quick once you leave this place. But you have to get out of this place. This is purgatory. This is hell. This is the worst place you can be because it's the training ground for baby souls. So once you get out of this place and start moving up, it becomes easier. This is the hardest thing you'll ever have to go through. The only way it's any harder is if you stayed evil and you made it all the way halfway through the sixth dimension. But then it becomes very easy because you don't have to come all the way back down to go all the way up. You just flip. But while you're in that lifetime and you realize that you need to flip, then you're going to have nothing but strife until you die because they're going to be attacking you and trying to destroy you. It'll be just like here. It'll be just like here, there. And then once you transition and move up, you'll no longer be captive by evil. So you're captive by evil when you choose it. That's why they say in the Jedi way that, going down the dark path, forever will dominate your destiny, because the second you give in to fear and hate and anger, which those are just the negative things they were showing you in the Jedi way. The other way, and truthfully, is just power, money, fame, and the like. If you buy into that, that is the beginning of taking you down the evil path. Literally, that is the beginning. So everybody, that's why it's concerning that all the younger kids right now, when you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're like an influencer on TikTok, because they're literally being sold that, and they're being transitioned in their mind to be evil and being programmed to be evil without knowing it. Because I want to be I want to be somebody that gets a lot of clicks and gets paid for making videos. I want fame, I want power, I want money, and then control happens after that. And that turns you on to the Illuminati, and then they punk you in, whatever you want to call the Cabal, whatever you want to call the Orion Crusaders, because they go by many different names down here. Once that establishment goes to punk you in, then you're a slave to them. And then they get you to do things that are immoral, illegal, murder, things like that. And then they film it, and then they own you. And then you do what they tell you to do from that point on. We'll make you famous, but we get to fuck you whenever we want. We get to rape you, beat you, and you can't do anything about it because we're making you money. That's what they did to all the actors, actresses, and rock stars. Ask any of them who got out. They'll tell you that. But most of the time, they can't even do that because they have no livelihood unless they still do what they're being told. So that's why a lot of them will just go, I'm not going to do that anymore. I have money, and I'm never going to do that anymore. And as long as they don't try, then the Cabal will mess with them. The second they write another album, the Cabal's going to go, you're not making it, because you're not back in the fold. I know that some of you out there are going to go, okay, you're crazy, you're just talking, and that has nothing to do with reality. No, it's exactly what was in that little case that the Anunnaki are carrying. All right, let's continue here.
I don't wish to get off on subjects of no importance or subjects that don't lead us to a better understanding of our mechanism of growth, which lead us to things that are not transient, but it's difficult sometimes to see precisely what direction to go in. I would like to investigate a little bit more this idea of crystals and how they are used. I'm assuming then from what you said that in order to use the crystal to tap intelligent energy, it is necessary to have a partially undistort mind/body/spirit complex. Is this satisfactory, or do you need, is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is specifically correct. 29.25 Questioner, there must be a point at which the removal of distortion reaches a minimum for use of the crystal in tapping intelligent energy. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct only if it is understood, shall we say, that each mind/body/spirit complex has a unique such point. 29.
Right. So do you get what he said there? So each individual has their own unique point to which then you start to become crystalline, right? And that is directly related to your your perspective, your point of view, and where you currently are. And that's why where you currently are is so literally that's why I say you're not going to have a time where 90% of the population all of a sudden gets aligned perfectly and can ascend and chooses to ascend. And then you have that so-called rapture. That's not going to happen because anyone who has that ability, that's why I'm still here. Anyone who has that ability, when you unlock those doors and you tap into to the Akashic record and start to understand what it is, and you start learning that and taking it all in and download it, because trust me, you will. Once you start tapping into that, you realize you can do it at will. You're going to say, I want to know everything. I want to know everything. I want to know everything. And then your ascension happens a lot faster. Once you do that and you gain this knowledge, then you're going to go, I'm not going to do anything. There's no reason for me to do anything because this is what's supposed to happen. That's the first thing that you do at that high level is you go, this is supposed to happen the way it's happening, so I'm not making any difference. And then as you progress past that, you realize, oh, okay, so now it's for me as much as it is for them. So here's the trade-off. This is where the teach, learn, teach is coming into play. So I'm not just doing this now for them because it's already going to happen anyways, but now I'm doing it for myself as well. So now I'm helping them, and that's helping me. And then you get to all of a sudden realization of, that's the way it's been all along. Okay. And then you go, all right, so I can leave whenever I want. And then you start, because by that time you have the ability to talk to your own guides and your higher self. And everyone goes, yeah, no, whenever you want to leave. You want to leave, you can just die now. You can just lay down. You can say, I'm done, and lay down, and your body will die unless you signed on, unless you already wrote up a contract. And a lot of people hate that I use that word. Unless you already decided, I'm going to stay here for this amount of time. And now you're becoming aware, and you're like, well, then I'm tired and I want to leave. Then they're going to go, well, no, actually, you said you're going to be here for another 10,000 years. If you're not supposed to, and you're just waking up and you already were supposed to leave thousands of years ago, 100 years ago, yesterday, then they'll go, well, yeah, you've actually fulfilled what you're supposed to, and you can actually graduate now. You can leave. Every single person in the last 75,000 years has gone, really, I can leave? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, maybe I'll stay and help. And every single person has stayed except for one. Evil people, on the other hand, whenever they get a chance to get the hell out of here, they run like it's the devil himself chasing them. Okay? When they can graduate up to the fourth density as an evil on the evil side, every one of them runs as fast as they can. That's another reason why I tell you, the people that were, everyone's like, the evil people are just recycling as well. And no, they're not. When they learn how to ascend themselves, they will. And they'll leave every one of their family members behind down here. Fuck you guys. I got mine. You get yours. I'm out. I get to graduate. You guys are so screwed. Wait, Dad, you said you would never leave us behind. Fuck you. I'm evil enough to get out of here. And that part of that is for me to say, fuck you. Bye-bye now. See you later. Maybe. And then they go. Because to be evil enough, you have to be 95% evil. Almost 97 to 98%. So to be that evil, you can literally have to be in love with yourself to the point where you literally look at your own evil family that you've trained to be evil and go, the second I'm in control of the entire planet, it's only me, bitches. And the second I can check out of here, I'm going to leave all your asses behind and I'm never looking back because I really don't care about you. That's the truth. So they get out of here as soon as they can, and they don't want to come back. That's why the wanderers, 99.99999, like 7, 8, 9% of all wanderers are not evil. Because they're the only ones that would be willing to come down here, sacrifice their memory, and lower their vibration and not know, and maybe never wake up and be stuck with everybody here. They're the only ones that would sacrifice because they love everyone else. They're in service to others. So that the other way around never happens. They're like, I got mine. I'm out. Hell yeah, I did it. I'm evil enough. Genghis Khan. I'm evil enough. Adolf Hitler was not evil enough. Adolf Hitler is still in the place, or he was 40 years ago, still in the place of healing because he wasn't actually evil, but they fucked his mind up so much and had him on so many drugs that he became a little bit more evil and he didn't intend to. He was supposed to do what he did. He knew that, but he didn't want to graduate on the evil side. People don't want to hear that about him. They want to just think he was evil, that all evil people are just evil, and some of them are just evil, and that's all that they are. Some are, but not all of them are that way. Some of them are misunderstood, and everybody just is. It doesn't matter what you are currently on this earth. You have either been evil for many lifetimes or you're going to be. Depends on how you started out and what you decided to do. Okay, most of us who are wanderers already got that out of our system, and that's why we're here. Some have come here because they've never been evil, and they're coming back to help, and they've never been evil because some of the people who have come back to this earth currently that are born into bodies here grew up as a soul before the time of the veiling, and they've never been veiled, so they've never been evil and never had to. Those people have come down here, and some of them have come down here to be evil because they've never been that. So you have to rise above the knowledge and the understanding, or you have to rise to the understanding that everyone serves the all. Everything serves the all. So people that are in any way evil, there is no right and wrong. And that pisses off people that are trying to teach you that there is, and that there's a war that they have to fight, because there's no way. We can't just tell people that it's okay for them to be evil. And truly, people don't like to tell people that. And I don't normally say that, because if you just tell people it's okay, then some people who are going to choose evil will go, I'm going to be as evil as I can be. Okay? That's why they don't want you to tell that. So the people who are trying to control everybody away from being evil don't want you to know that just as hard and just as much as evil people don't want you to know about spirituality. They're scared to death that people would choose to be evil. Only 14% of the population is going to choose to be evil and stay evil. Some people might play with it for a minute just to feel what it feels like, but inside they're going to know that it's not them, and they're going to stop. Only the people who have already come here to choose to be evil are the ones that are going to embrace it. 14% of the population of the earth. Out of the 7.9 billion souls, only 14% of them. And out of that 14%, only 1% of them will actually be successful and gain power and control. But that 1% it tries to lock down everything. Look around the world. Okay, let's continue while I read some of what you guys are saying in the chat to see if you guys have any questions. So Ra's literally saying that to start to become crystalline, every single individual has their own threshold of where that happens, and that has to do with your own personal spirituality when you gain that level of your spirituality.
0.26 questioner. Can you tell me why each mind/body/spirit complex has this unique point of distortion reading? Ra, I am Ra. Each mind/body/spirit complex is a unique portion of the one creator. 29.27 questioner. Then you are saying that there is no single level of, shall we say, purity required to tap intelligent energy through crystals, but there can be a wide variation in the amount of distortion that an entity may have, but each entity has to reach his particular point of what I might call energizing the ability. Is this right? Ra, I am Ra. This is incorrect. The necessity is for the mind/body/spirit complex to be of a certain balance, this balance thus enabling it to reach a set level of lack of distortion. The critical difficulties are unique for each mind/body/spirit complex due to the experiential distillations, which in total are the, shall we say, violet ray beingness of each such entity. This balance is what is necessary for work to be done in seeking the gateway to intelligent infinity through the use of crystals or through any other use. No two mind/body/spirit crystallized natures are the same. The distortion requirements, vibrationally speaking, are set. 29.28 question.
Right. So you have to realize that everybody is an individual because you are literally supposed to be an individual soul. So that means when you come into a body, your physical body is completely individual than everybody else. You have a base of, well, you're a human being, and then you're one of the 7 DNA strands, or a combination, a mixture and blending of all of those 7, or some of those. Like, I don't have any African DNA in this physical body, but I do have Native American DNA. I do have Spanish DNA. I do have Greek Roman DNA. I have Irish, Welsh, English DNA, mostly all of Europe. And then I have Scandinavian DNA. And that part of the Scandinavian DNA is the Spanish DNA because of that region of the world where my DNA comes from. So literally I have Northern, Western Europe DNA predominantly. 83% of my DNA is from, well, actually, if you count the Greco-Roman, then all but 5% of my DNA is from Europe. If you put Italy and Greece into the European pantheon, then all but 5% of my DNA. And my DNA is Native American, which means that if my DNA is Native American, that means half of that DNA is in fact European. Okay, so even though I'm Native, right? So then that cuts it to, well, the people that lived here But then when you go back far enough, the people that lived here were half European, and that's what they figured out. So the truth is, even my Native American DNA is half European, because those people that are the ancient the Native Americans that they found is the most ancient were half European, not Caucasian, no Asian. So I don't have any Asian DNA, right? I don't. In this physical body, I am not Australian, I am not Asian, and I am not African, and I'm not deep South South America. But the Aztecs, the Mayans, and that is where I get the native DNA from, right? And then, of course, my DNA came over here and is related to when Cortez got here, because I can trace my DNA down to Baja, down into Central America and South America, and then it shoots directly over to Spain, which means that my my grandfather on my father's side, his wife, my grandmother on my father's side, she was half European and half Native American. Okay. And that Native American blood that she was mixed blood, half Spanish, half Native. Okay. And that's where I get that. So the truth is that you have whatever your DNA is, you have a mixture of that. That doesn't mean, and I want to stress this as well, because of what I said earlier, where some people will say, oh, well, I always come through as a man. Not true. And you don't come through as the same race. I just happen to have come through in this lifetime because I was trying to set up everything for this physical body, so that my spiritual being inside, because when I left where I came from, when I came here, was the Orion's belt, the belt of Orion, the middle light or star galaxy, actually, in the Orion's belt. And what I was, the being that I was then, is represented on this earth by the Viking Celtic DNA. So I've been on this planet and haven't always been Viking Celtic DNA, but in this particular lifetime, I had aligned things to be here at this specific time in this specific body to do what I'm specifically doing. And all of these things were designed before I came into this lifetime on purpose, so that everything would be exactly the way it is for me physically as well as spiritually, so that things lined up. My name being a title, all of my names being titles, my DNA being from a specific place that is a representation of where I came from. All of that was done so that all the stars would align at the perfect time, so that I would be born unveiled. So I'm only this race because when I came here, I was a race that is represented on this earth. I was a Patal, which is represented on this planet as the Viking race in the physical. Not saying that I had to be this race, right? Because some of the people that are this race aren't, and some of the people from all over the world, there are people that I know that are African who are of the same lineage spiritually. So it doesn't matter your physical body. And that's what I was talking about before, when great grandpa gets born, he could be Chinese this time and going up against the Rothschilds. So the guys that are in charge of the Chinese Communist Party could be the Rothschilds from 2 generations ago, reborn into bodies. And now they're trying to gain control again. They don't even remember it themselves, or maybe they do. And the other people that are their cousins are going, we don't recognize you. You're a chink, because, they're all about physical. So my point here is that your physical body doesn't mean that that's where you came from, but some of us designed these things at specific times and dates and places so that we wake up faster, or that we can do that. And I was unaware that all of that took place until psychics started telling me that. And then I started realizing, well, how these things did align. And I've had many psychics say, you did everything right this time to do exactly what you're doing and to be awake, to be unveiled from birth. And I just assumed everybody was like me until my father was like, no, and you need to stop talking. You need to stop telling people things until they're ready to hear it. You're too young to be telling people these things. So the first thing about Fight Club, the first rule in Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. And the second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. That was what my father had to teach me when I was a boy, to shush, don't, you can tell me everything you want to tell me, but do not say this in public in front of other people. Don't tell your friends. Don't tell your teachers. They will not understand, and they will say you're crazy and you'll end up on drugs. They'll take you away from me and you'll end up on drugs. And I'm not saying that because I think you're crazy. I know you're not, but you can't tell people this. Okay. And that was what I got when I was younger. He's like, you'll understand this when you get older. And then I was quiet about it and didn't tell anybody. I didn't start talking about being unveiled until psychics started saying it online recently within the last year. Okay. I let everybody believe I was just some guy who knew hardly anything most of the time. Because when I would try to steer people, then they would just immediately get annoyed. And so I just didn't until I could. And so I worked with people in ways that I could know the room. Right. And then eventually, we've gotten things to the point where, everybody kept telling me it's time. And I kept going, no, hold on. Let's just calm down here. And everybody kept pushing from up there and down here. And eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to run with this. You guys better be ready because I'm going to run. And they were like, I've been running already waiting for you. So that's where we're at. There's a lot of people on this earth that are already doing that in their own right, just standing up and starting to tell you what's going on in the universe. And they immediately, when you start getting popular enough, as soon as you start making a difference on this planet, you get pushback. And right now, I'm not popular enough to get pushback yet. This book comes out, you'll see that happening really quick. Okay, so each individual, let's get back onto Raw, and we'll go from there. Each individual, and like I said, I'm going to put my glasses back on and read the chat, see if you guys have questions. Each individual will pop off at their own rate. You'll start to crystalline at your own rate, and that always happens, whether you know it or not. It happens when you're supposed to. We have a problem with trying too hard and getting obsessed with things instead of allowing to go with the flow, the ebb and flow of the universe. We try to force things, and that slows things down. The universe, it runs and you cannot bend the universe to your will. Cannot. That whole idea of doing that is 3D. And so the only way that you can bend the universe to your will is you have to come down here to the physical and do it in the physical, and then you can dominate everybody that you want, and then you'll never ascend. You'll just be here. That's all you get. That's eating of the tree of life. That's living of the flesh. You should know these terms if you're at all studying spirituality from anywhere around the world. And if you're not, and you don't know what I'm saying, you still kind of get it. All right, let's continue.
I see. Then if you are able to read the violet ray of an entity, to see that ray, is it possible then to immediately determine whether the entity could use crystals to tap intelligent energy? Ra, I am Ra. It is possible for one of fifth density or above to do this. 29.29 Questioner, is it possible for you to tell me how a crystal is used by an entity who has satisfactorily achieved necessary violet ray qualification? I will say, how it is possible for the entity to use the crystal or how he should use the crystal. Ra, I am Ra. The gateway to intelligent infinity is born of, shall we say, the sympathetic vibration in balanced state accompanying the will to serve, the will to seek. 29.30 Questioner, but can you tell me precisely what the entity would do with the crystal to use it for the purpose of seeking the intelligent infinity?
Okay, before he answers that, so literally you can only access, see here again, you can only access the crystal and its energy to potentiate it to do anything when you've learned the balance that it's not just for you. Do you see? You're not using it for your own will. The knowledge of the Akashic record, the knowledge of the universe only comes to those who can use that energy to balance and realize if I gain this knowledge, it's only because I'm trying to help other people. I am in service to others, and therefore it's the only way you gain that knowledge. You can't trick the universe like you can down here. Can't. Okay, so you can't go, okay, so I'm going to pretend that I'm in service to others because I would really want power. The universe, the laws that govern the universe know what you're doing before you even do it. So you just can't gain access to it. Evil people know that because they've tried. The same thing goes for I can only tell you, and I can only say online, which is going out to the ether like I am now, that which the collective consciousness of this earth can understand. And trust me, I've tried. Many people do this. Anyone who is actually awake enough will either constantly change the narrative of their tone and the words they're going to use so that they never run up against that wall, because you know when you are. We all know when we're doing it. Okay. And so those of us who sometimes try to push to see how far we can go, because things change. I can literally say, go up against a wall and try to give you information, the secrets of the universe that have to do with some sort of spirituality in the seventh dimension, and nobody can fathom that here, and they'll be stopped. 6 months from now, the entire population of the earth might raise their vibration enough to know that knowledge now. So if we never attempt it again, we don't know if things change. And so truthfully, anyone who is willing to tell you that is someone that is trying to give you information that might be too much for you to handle. It's not a bad thing. It's just that we don't know sometimes from moment to moment, year to year, how much we can say. Literally, Jacqueline Taylor, who, here's a commercial again, who I will be on her show tomorrow at noon Pacific time. That's these days is GMT -8 because we had a time change. It used to be GMT -7, but it's GMT -8. Rick had to get used to that all of a sudden, where he was like, why is it that I got up and you weren't on now, but you were before, and that's weird. And so because it's the time change that we go through here in the United States, which we hate. And we're trying to stay on one time zone, and most states are trying to vote on it to stay in one time and not change. There's some states that already do that. I lived in Arizona, and they never changed the time. Only up in the very north of Arizona do they change the time. Down in the south, 3/4 of the state doesn't change the time at all. Otherwise, you change twice a year. So literally, we know this knowledge, and we can only give you what the collective consciousness can handle. So we don't know how it shifts when it does. We're trying to uplift, so we're always trying to push it higher. And then sometimes we know that in Jacqueline Taylor, who I'm going to be on her show tomorrow, literally when I showed up in a chat room, we were on a video conference, and when we met the first time, which is almost 10 years ago now, and we started talking, I started just, say, okay, the people that are supposed to be in here are awake, and I just started going. She literally looked at me, and I didn't know this until she said it, until she told me about it, and she's mentioned it on the air. She looked at me and literally thought to herself, and then said, "We can talk about this," because she didn't know either how much we could actually openly say. But because the group that we were in was smaller, and we were on a chat that was encrypted and wasn't going out to the larger portion of the planet, we were able to say more than we could on air. And she was like, wow. And she got all excited. We can actually say this stuff. And then she started, when she was talking in public, she started pushing to see how far we could go. And that's the only way we know where the room is, where the collective consciousness of the earth is. And that's why I talk about the law of one, because when this was 41 years ago, this is 1981. So 42 years ago. Okay. And I'll tell you right now what Raw could talk about 42 years ago. So if you think Raw is giving you information now, that's 42 years outdated spiritual information. If Raw were coming through someone right now, Raw would be giving you as much information as I am or more, depending on how far Raw could push. Raw was pushing the boundaries 40 years ago, but Raw had to hide things in the way he spoke, so that people like me would get them. This is the same thing in the Bibles, especially the Western Judeo-Christian Bible, the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Torah, and the Quran. Literally, where God says, write this down and then eat it, and it'll be locked up for all of time until people way in the future will understand this. Same reasoning. There was a message in there that is, when you read it now, you will interpret what they were saying 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago. But nobody on earth was capable. And if there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people around the planet that would read the Bible and go, oh, I get this. I get what they're saying. And then if they try to tell people that, people wouldn't understand them and say, okay, you're just crazy. What are you saying? You're saying these things. It wasn't until everybody started uplifting their spiritual practice and getting away from Orthodox religion, which has been corrupted from the top down, to keep you from your own personal spirituality. And know that I'm not saying that because I'm an atheist and I'm trying to destroy the churches. I'm saying that because I have 4 religious titles and 4 different religions on this earth. Okay. And I'm trying to do the same thing that all of those people that were those religions' prophets were also trying to tell you at the time. And if you look at all spiritual practices of all these prophets like Muhammad, like Jesus, like Moses, like David, like Elijah, like all of Daniel, all these people in just that pantheon of Western Judeo-Christianity and the religions that it was spawned from that, Christianity and the Muslim religion and the Hebrew religion and a couple of others, you'll find that all of those were subjected to councils like the First and Second Council of Nicaea, where they edited the books. All the older religions were as well. And then all of the older spiritual practices by the secular, and I told you this, if you Google anybody, ask what the creation story of the Hebrews or the Vikings or the Mesopotamian creation story or the Egyptian, they're going to tell you the Egyptian myth. So they were right from the beginning tell you this isn't real. This was fake stuff that somebody made up and they made a religion out of it. And they'll tell you that about every religion. There is no definitive proof that any of these people actually lived. Because we say so. Because we can't have you knowing this stuff to be true. So therefore, we can't prove that it actually happened because they've taken the knowledge away to do so on purpose, to get you to cast doubt into you. That's controlling your pineal gland. With taking a hold of the little pine cone. It's not them trying to give you information. It's them taking it away from you and controlling your pineal gland. Them showing that with the hand out is I am controlling someone else's mind. And then they carry the little handbag. It's actually this way. And the handbag's in the right hand. And then they have scrolls. Okay. And that is the evil people all over the world have that in their countries. You don't believe me and you're in the United States, go to Los Angeles and go to the Chinese Kabuki Theater and ask yourself why, if you're looking at the Chinese Kabuki Theater from the street and you're looking at it directly straight on, go down the right side and ask why on the outside of a Chinese movie theater made to look like a Chinese pagoda building, why on the outside of that is there a mural of the Anunnaki painted? Big one, 15 feet tall. Why? Has nothing to do with the Chinese. Mesopotamia is not part of China, even currently to this day. It's a little further west. Mesopotamia, where that scroll came from, would be Iran or Iraq, Iran or Iraq today. So why is that on the outside of a Chinese movie theater that is a legendary building that is built like a Chinese building from 1,000 years ago? Because they're telling you who they are. Okay. And what goes on in that building. Think about what goes on there. That's where they have the red carpet and all of the people do the award shows and the premieres of all the movies, the programming, and the people they control and the rich and elite people that go there. Their religion is that. And they're broadcasting it right in front of your face to you all around the world. Ask yourself wherever you are, if you're in any European country, and I think Australia too. I'm not certain for you. I wrote it in my book, and I haven't looked it up to find out because I wrote a lot in there and channeled a lot of it. But I wrote the countries. Why is it that all these European countries, America, England, France, Germany, Russia, Denmark, Sweden, maybe not that far north, not Sweden. Why are all these countries in Europe have an obelisk from Egypt in their capital? Why is it? Go to Washington, D.C. There's a 200, almost 200 foot tall obelisk there. That one wasn't transported from Egypt, but there's a smaller one that is also in Washington, D.C. They know, and I show you in my book, I tell you where they are, where they're located. Germany, their capital, France's capital, England's capital. These have been transported from Egypt and moved to these capitals and put into place. Why? Because they're telling you something about who they are. Okay. So that's in my book. You guys will have to get my book when it comes out. It is going to be titled, or it is currently titled, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. And it's going to give you some knowledge about the people that believe they own this planet. That whatever you want to call them, cabal, deep state, whatever you want to call them, gives you a little bit more knowledge into who they are and where they came from and what they're up to. All right, let's continue.
Ra, I am Ra. The use of the crystal in physical manifestation is that use wherein the entity of crystal in nature charges the regularized physical crystal with this seeking. thus enabling it to vibrate harmonically and also become the catalyst or gateway whereby intelligent infinity may thus become intelligent energy. This crystal serving as an analog of the violet ray of mind/body/spirit in relatively undistorted form. 29.31 Questioner.
Okay, wait. Yeah. Hi, Peter. I apologize, brother. I saw you there while I was talking, and I kept telling myself when I have a break in my words, say hello to Peter. And then I started playing it again and looked down, and immediately Cassie said, "Hi, Peter." Thank you, Cassie, for saying hi, Peter, because I didn't say hello to Peter. Hi, brother. I'm glad that you're here. Welcome. It's late for you over there, right? We're at 4:30 over here, right? So you're 8 hours ahead of me. So what does that put you at? Almost midnight, right? I mean, it puts you at 12:30, right? Half past midnight for you over there in Ireland. Okay, so literally, your knowledge again. He's stating that that literally you have to become aware, and then once you become aware of even working with crystals, which I don't have any on my person. I usually do. My sister comes over and takes one every time she loses one. I have about 40 crystals right now, maybe a little bit more than that. That I have. I keep them around everywhere. One sits on my nightstand, and I have a bunch on my computer desk, and all of that. But any crystalline structure can be utilized for sound, vibration. It can manifest. I was part of a test back in the day, and we used to do this all the time with sound. And you can watch these videos where people do that now, where they take that plate and they set the plate on top of a speaker, and they set it on top of it, and they put salt in there. And salt is 100%. Sodium is 100% crystalline. And then change the frequency of the sound. And they found that when you get to specific frequencies of sound, as you're moving towards that frequency, the vibration will literally get the salt crystals moving and jumping. And then all of a sudden you'll hit a certain tone of that sound at a certain frequency, and all the salt on that plate will literally move spontaneously because of the sound. They'll move and become a geometric pattern that is absolutely perfect every single time. And then when you change the frequency a little bit higher, all of a sudden they go out of, it gets fuzzy and they're not holding their shape. And then all of a sudden they'll just sit there. And then as you get closer to another specific frequency that we know, like 444 hertz, and the different ones that Peter's usually talking about in the chat, that we know of, that we've discovered with these ones that are prime, that coincide with 3, 6, and 9, or they coincide with all of your chakras, from the red ray chakra to the violet, which Ra mentioned, the violet chakra just a moment ago. You literally will see that the crystalline structure will again start to vibrate all of the salt, and then they'll move again to a completely different geometric pattern from the one before, and stay in perfect synchronicity until you move past that exact frequency, and then they'll drop down again and become fuzzy and still be kind of in the shape, and then eventually start vibrating when you get to the next one. And that is when you go from one chakra point to the next. And that is literally a crystal, literally exists. If you have the actual crystal in your hand, it exists because it's in the third dimension. It exists in all of those frequencies, and you can tap into that energy and utilize that energy to do whatever you want here in the physical on any one of your chakras. So you can charge one entire crystal for every one of your chakras to help you balance each chakra. Or you can work with one crystal, but you have to retune it to each level. And this is what Ra's talking about here. Okay, so let's continue.
Is it possible at all for you to instruct us in specific uses of crystals? Ra, I am Ra. It is possible. There are, we consider, things which are not efficacious to tell you due to possible infringement upon your free will. Entities of the Confederation have erred in this in the past. The uses of the crystal, as you know, include the uses for...
Right, Cassie's talking, and I'm going to put this up here on the screen for everybody to see, Cassie, and this is what our contention. This is where some of us who are very awake, we get annoyed with the other side, and I'll read it to those of you listening on the MP3 broadcast. You can't see it, so I'll read it to you. And Cassie is saying this, and her and I talk about this many times, and anybody who's awake, you know this. They're always saying, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And when she's talking about, when saying she's talking about your guides and your higher self, and especially if you're talking to a team of people that you've come here with that are not physically manifest down here. and they're up there in the non-physical or in the next dimension. Usually they come to you from halfway through the fourth or in the fifth and halfway through that, and sometimes higher. They're always going, hurry up, because they're outside of time. They are in a place that there is no time. Time is now. So there is no past, present, and future like we have separation. That everything just happens now. So they're like, hurry up, because they still have ego there, right? The ego is still there, and you're still battling that. That doesn't go away until you get halfway through the sixth dimension. Then the ego ceases to have any kind of influence over you whatsoever. And it gets dimmer and less, and you have more control over it as the higher up you go, because you get yourself into a place where it can't talk to you. But they're always going, hurry up, and hurry up now, like she says in the thing. So they're always saying, hurry up now. And why are you guys going so slow? They don't remember that we have time here. So they're always telling us to hurry up, and we have to constantly look up to them or talk up to them and go, hey, look, anytime you want to come down here, you can come down here and do my job for me if you think you can do it better. And that's usually when they go, all right, you don't have to be like that. No, you're outside of time. You have no idea what's going on down here. It takes time. And this is why I talked about that, where when you have to realize when you're dreaming, you're outside of time, and that everything manifests right now in your dreams. You can just make it happen. Well, here, because time is linear, when you manifest something, you have the perception of it takes time to manifest. So you have to allow for that. You have to become aware of that. And when we spell cast or when we spell weave, and teaching that, and I've been teaching that for almost 40 years now, not a joke, probably close to 40 years. We teach you to be patient. It's a Druid way. The Druids were aware of this, the Wiccans and the Druids, especially the Druid way. The Wiccans are a little bit more, they're the ones who stand on ceremony. Everything has on a full moon or a new moon. And so when you read like even the Necronomicon, it takes like 3 months for them to cast a spell, because they're doing everything at the prime time with energy, because the manifestation took a different turn when you're at a lower vibration than it does at a higher vibration. That's why we call it magic with a K. And I hope I don't lose some of you. So some of us, when you become able to manifest instantly, because you realize that time is outside of time, and there are certain things that you can physically manifest here instantly, but that the larger things take time to manifest, because you have to work things within the bounds of where you are. There are some things you can manifest quickly in the now that some people aren't aware of. And so when you're first learning magic, you have to learn, or any kind of conjuring or any kind of manifestation of any kind, you have to learn to see outside of time to get the concept that things can be instantaneous here, but not all things. And so what happens is, to disprove you, the secularists will be like, well, then, make a ham sandwich, stand in front of me right now. You can't do that, can you? See, he's fake. And because they know how the laws work here in the physical. And they know that you have to be like, even Jesus couldn't go, shrimp. Well, that's not a good example, because he did do that. Because of the loaves and fishes, right? The fish and loaves. So you have to be that. And I'm not that. Okay. I'm not Jesus to be able to go, look, just start handing out the loaves and the food. We only have a couple of loaves of bread and like 3 fishes. Just start handing it out. It'll be fine. And they fed 10,000 people. They didn't actually show that part I just realized that they didn't show that part on his Sermon on the Mount in the television show, which that's weird that you wouldn't have him do that miracle there. I didn't even think about that. And I just got done watching the 2 episodes that dealt with that. Maybe they'll talk about that in the retrospect. They did have him do it earlier on, though. Maybe that's how they got around it. They had him do that when they were fishing on the boat. They showed him tell them to cast out in a certain place, and they had been fishing for like 2 days and didn't catch any fish. And all of a sudden the fish were jumping into the boat. So they did show that. So I guess they decided not to show it a second time, because he did it more than once. He did it first for the sermon on the beach, and then he did it on the Sermon on the Mount again in the Bible. If you read Matthew in the Bible, it's in there. But it wasn't in the television show the second time, which maybe they're going to save it and change it, because not all of it's 100% accurate. They know that. I was just watching the show last night, as a matter of fact, and watching some of the stuff, they do behind the scenes where they're talking and interviews and things. And they know that there's some things they change slightly. But like one, they changed Little Peter has a limp because the actor who's playing Little Peter is actually handicapped. So they wrote that in to the script that Little Peter had a handicap because the actor who's playing the part had a handicap. And he's really good to play the part. So they utilized that and wrote it into the script. That didn't happen in the Bible. So some people would get mad and go, well, Little Peter didn't have a limp, right? And then here we got Matthew on the spectrum. Well, they're pretty sure when you read about Matthew that he was autistic. He was on the spectrum. There's 2 of the 12 that are on the spectrum, and they're being very apparent about that in the show on purpose because they were hiding that. I mean, most people didn't know what it was back then, so we identify that now. When you read it, you go, "Oh, hey, I think Matthew was actually on the spectrum." Okay, so I think that's funny that Cassie said that because it's true. Let's go back to that, and we'll get back to Raw. Is that outside of time, everything is now, and the only place time exists is in the first, the second, and the third dimension, which is all happening right here on this earth. Okay. Right now, what you can observe is the first, the second, and the third dimension on earth. Time exists there. But the people in the first dimension and the second dimension, the people in the first dimension, the souls in the first dimension, they're unaware of time. To them, there is no time. They don't have a concept because they're not self-aware. So they're just living. They're just alive. They're doing what they're doing. They're a rock. They're this wall, right? They're this cotton right here, right? That I'm wearing. That's an entity that was alive. And I've taken that flesh and turned it into a shirt, right? So literally, I was just watching, oddly enough, watching Yellowstone. I watched Yellowstone and then The Chosen, right? So I'm watching this movie about all these evil people trying to kill each other, and then I'm watching the movie of all the evil people trying to kill Jesus. Wait, what? Anyway, but literally, they were teaching the grandkid to hunt, and he got his first kill and shot a deer. And his grandfather said to him when he said, you can't take that back when you have a weapon, especially a rifle. You don't point this at anybody because this has the power to kill. And you have to make sure that you know why you're doing it to do it and not to just do it. So then they had him shoot a deer, and then he realized that he had killed the deer. And he said, son, you have to realize that we live in a place that something has to die for us to survive. You have to consume sustenance, food, no matter what you eat. People are like, I'm a vegan, I'm a vegetarian because I'm not going to kill those poor defenseless planets or poor defenseless animals. Those people justify that, but they go and they kill plant food that's alive, and they go and yank that shit out of the ground and stick it in their mouth and eat it. And they pretend to themselves they're not killing something, they're not consuming something's flesh, and they're trying to say, I won't eat those animals. I don't eat meat because those animals are alive, and that's just because their perception is I like them better, and they're closer to being self-aware, so therefore I don't want to harm them. But this lettuce and this kale, I'll rip it out of the fucking ground and shove it in my mouth and eat that shit and never even give it another thought. I don't eat milk or eggs because those are embryos and milk of a cow or a chicken, and I don't do that. I'll just eat vegetables. That's alive, man. You're eating something's flesh. You're putting it in the ground and it's alive. For you to survive, you have to consume life. Okay? So you can't live without it. Stop eating. You'll die. Okay? So if you said, truly, I'm not going to eat anything that's alive, well, then when someone else kills it for you, you'll eat something that's dead? No, that used to be alive too. So was that radish. So was that pickle. So was that piece of lettuce. So was whatever you think is going to give you sustenance to survive had to be alive, and then you had to kill it so that you could eat it, or you're eating it alive. To pretend to yourself that somehow you're above everyone else because you're not killing something that runs or flies or swims, and that you draw that line, I'm not going to eat any of that stuff because that's just cruel to only have cows not be free and have them put in a pen somewhere to where they're grown only for food. But I'm going to eat that lettuce that was planted in the ground specifically for food and cultivated and put in a pen that no one else can get to it, and pesticides to kill all other animals who are going to try and consume it because it's going to be sold to a human. It's the same thing. Okay. So again, your perspective, right? Again, all the truths we cling to depend greatly on a certain point of view. Ours, right? Okay, let's continue with what Ra was talking about. So again, Ra is saying that about your chakras and your ascension because your ego is going to be telling you something different, like, I'm not going to eat that meat. Well, some people, their body can't handle that, and that's okay. I'm all right with that. But people who try to justify it and say to other people, right, you're going to die, you eat that meat, because that's just the vibration is low because you're killing something that's alive. Okay, so you're doing the same thing with that lettuce, that salad that you're eating. Everything in that salad was alive a few minutes ago until it was ripped out of the ground, or maybe a day or two ago, because you're eating it fresh. It was ripped out of the ground. It was alive then you tore it out of the ground, and now you're eating it. It's no different than shooting a rabbit and eating his flesh. No different. No different than eating a hamburger from McDonald's or a French fry. It was all alive until it was killed and cooked and put in front of you. And so, or like if you eat sushi, well, that fish was alive, then it was frozen, then it was cut up and you're eating it raw. Same thing's going on with that piece of lettuce and kale that you're eating. It was alive, and then it was chopped off, pulled out of the ground, and while it was still alive, it was tossed in a thing and cleaned and shipped to a store while it's laying there dying slowly. But it's shipped as fast as possible so that you can get the crunch. And so when you eat it, it's still alive. It's not dead yet. At least the people who are eating meat can say this thing's fucking dead already. Right? So yeah, you're right. Someone killed that for that person to eat it. You're eating something that hasn't died yet. I actually showed that to my wife, my ex-wife now, when they were getting a lettuce that they would grow and ship it. And when you got it at the store, it was literally sitting in this thing still alive. And I said, this is alive. You're going to eat this alive. And she was like, no, it's not. I'm like, yeah, it is. Look. And I cut it off and kept the roots, and I put the roots in dirt and grew more lettuce out of the roots instead of throwing it away or eating the roots. I put it and set it on the counter and grew a head of lettuce sitting on the counter. And she was like, oh my God, how did you do that? I'm like, because it was alive. They ship it so fast because it has to be fresh that this thing is still living and you're eating it alive. So you can't get, and so she wasn't a vegan, but she was like, I was talking about it and I said, look, I can prove it to you. And so it's still alive. You're eating it, you're killing it while you're eating it. So any of those people who say to you, I don't eat that stuff because it's so evil to pin them in and just raise them for food while they go on a carrot. The carrot is still alive. You're killing it right now while you're eating it. They pulled it out of the ground and shipped it to you like a week ago. If that thing's still alive. You can take a potato. I've done this. You can take a potato that you get from the store and bury it and grow potatoes. You can take just the little eyelids that start growing a little teeny freaking, you see a root coming out, cut that thing out, put it in the dirt. It'll grow potatoes. That's why they don't want you to know about all that, because you can grow everything on your own. You can eat an apple and take all the little seeds that are in there and dry them out and put it in the ground and grow another apple tree. Okay. They don't want you knowing anything about that or even trying to do it.
Healing, for power, and even for the development of life forms. We feel that it is unwise to offer instruction at this time, as your peoples have shown a tendency to use peaceful sources of power for disharmonious reasons. 29.32 Questioner, I guess what we'd better get to then, now that we have traced the path of creation at least down to the crystalline structure, we'd better concentrate on the evolution of thought and its seeking path to intelligent infinity. We have created, in the major galaxy of the Logos, a very large number of planets. As these planets develop, is it possible for you to give me an example of various planetary developments in what I would call a metaphysical sense, having to do with the development of consciousness and its polarities throughout the galaxy? In other words, I believe that some of these planets develop quite rapidly into higher density planets and some take longer times. Can you give me some idea of that development?
Right before he answers that, right, Aura said that, right, if you're not going to eat anything that is alive, then you're going to starve to death, right? You're going to die of starvation. Truly, that's the truth of that, right? So hi, by the way. And then who else said it? I just see somebody else new that said something in there. Simon, hi. I think it's Simon, right? So hi guys, welcome. So yeah, I mean, truly, you have to realize that you cannot survive without even water is alive. Everything is alive. Life is life. Everything is alive. So you drinking water, it's alive. You're eating a piece of salt, it's alive. It is life. That's what gives you the energy. You are taking the energy of the life force of that thing, and you're transmuting that energy into your body, and your physical body is breaking that down into the basic building blocks of the energy of the universe and then feeding your body with it. Okay? That's literally what you're doing. So we live in a place where that is the only way to survive. It is how the ecosystem works. Okay, it's designed that way because you start to learn that's what it's designed to do. Because what it does is, as you're getting killed over and over in your lifetimes as whatever you are, a piece of grass or a waif of air or whatever, something happens to where you have a life cycle and you die, and then something changes in you and you become something that's more apt to, with a bigger brain, to become self-aware. Then you become self-aware and, oh, wait a minute, now I count. And then you fight for your life. You will run, you will fight, you will try to survive. That becomes the instinct first, but then as those instincts kick in, you then start to realize you are something. And then when you do that, when you do die in that lifetime of whatever you are, a bird, a fish, a tree, a plant, a dog, a cat, the next lifetime, you'll be born a human baby. Okay? Because now you're self-aware, so you've graduated to the third dimension. But you still have to consume life, because you're in the bounds of the ecosystem that you're in. It only becomes later on, as you move and transcend into the spiritual, that your flesh needs less sustenance and your spiritual life needs more. Okay. And then you start to learn how to get energy from the universe to feed yourself, but you're still, again, reaching into the ether and taking and scooping the energy, the life force that is a potential person in the future, to consume that, to become, and then eventually you merge back with the one. And then when you do that, I can't even tell you, because you're going to freak out when you have that realization of where you go then. And then you're going to realize that all of this doesn't really matter. In fact, it doesn't matter at all, because all of this is just your imagination. I can give you that information, but what you do with it is yours to decide. All right, I'm going to press play again. I have to jump up. It's getting dark here. I got to go and close the curtains and turn on the lamp in the living room, because if I don't, my mother will attempt to do that, and that could be bad. She's trying to figure that out. Okay, so I'm going to let it play, but I can still hear it, and I'll come back. And if you guys have questions, put it in the chat. If not, we'll let Raw talk on here, and then I'll come back in about 20 seconds.
RA, I am Ra. This will be the final full query of this session. The particular logos of your major galaxy has used a large portion of its coalesced material to reflect the beingness of the Creator. In this way, there is much of your galactic system which does not have the progression of which you speak, but dwells spiritually as a portion of the logos. Of those entities upon which consciousness dwells, there is, as you surmise, a variety of time/space periods during which the higher densities of experience are attained by consciousness. Does this fulfill the requirements of your query? 29.33 Questioner, I'll study it and possibly have something tomorrow, since I don't want to overtire the instrument. The instrument had a question. If you have time for a short question, and I will read it. The instrument does not desire to do physical healing work. She already does spiritual balancing by hands. Can she read the private healing material without doing physical healing? I am assuming that she means, can she read it without creating problems in her life pattern? She does not wish to incur lessening of positive polarity. Can she read this material under those conditions? Ra, I am Ra. We shall speak shortly, due to the fact that we are attempting to conserve this instrument's vital energies during the 3-month period of which we have spoken. This entity has an experiential history of healing on levels other than the so-called physical. Thus it is acceptable that this material be read. However, the exercise of fire shall never be practiced by...
Simon, I would suggest go back and watch from the beginning. Simon asked if we can do. I came in late. Could you do a quick recap? What we're talking about, I can give you that. I'll give you that, and then you can go back and listen to what the questioning here is on this session, especially the second half of the session, is about spirituality and how that affects gravity, and what gravity is, and then moving into the crystalline nature of crystals on the earth and how you can work with and what those do for our chakras and how they're tuned to us and the universe itself. And also in doing so, which I didn't get into, and I'll give you that now. So you'll, when you go back, if you do go back and listen to this from the beginning, that you'll find that the information that you're supposed to move into is that it is to get you into that realization of the potentiality of infinite wisdom or infinite love, infinite structure of the universe itself. In that, by your transition of understanding or understanding that you have chakras and that they have vibrations, and that crystals on this earth, you can attune to all of the colors of the rainbow, which are the same colors of our chakras, and you can then utilize those and to do things. You have the potential to put energy into any object, but crystals, you can utilize any object in the world with your intention and your energy to then, if you're not trying to do it for your own purposes, to harm other people, but if you're trying to do it to help yourself and help others, then instinctively these entities will work with you, crystalline structures, crystals, for instance, and that's supposed to help you expand your consciousness, as well as using those tools to help tune your chakras in your physical body. And then also that's supposed to make you become more aware of the food that you eat and the vibration of the food that you eat, which that's why I said some people don't eat animals because they don't like the vibration of the animals or the way it's fixed. And sometimes people tend to, like, if you don't realize, and people will say, I don't eat meat because the vibration is low. Well, that's because you're getting the meat and you're eating it at, like, say, a fast food restaurant, and the fast food restaurant is kids or anybody who has to have the job, and they're most of the time very asleep themselves, and the food that they eat is just being put together because it's something that needs to be put out there for people to eat, so it has a very low vibration. That's part of the plan as to why they're doing what they're doing as well, talking about the establishment, so that you eat low vibrational food. We call high vibrational food ascension foods. And if you make the same hamburger yourself at home, it's going to have a completely higher vibration. Anything that's homemade, that's why people go, oh man, I always love grandma's homemade everything. My mom's homemade everything. My dad's homemade everything. I love homemade cooking. The reason you love homemade cooking is because someone's doing it with love. They're doing it because they want it to taste good, and they're hoping to impress you with their cooking skills, and they're trying to give you good food. And so they're cooking something for you and they're putting energy into it. It's completely different energy when you do that. And that's why we try to tell people it's not what you eat, it's who makes it for you and how it's being made and what the ingredients are. That's what's important. So that's why, like, a lot of my friends will, I don't eat any processed foods, because the processed foods most of the time have nothing but sugar and salt and monosodium glutamate and a bunch of crap in it that is fillers, because the companies are trying to make the food as cheap as they can possibly make it and make you think that it tastes really good. The truth is, you'll eat it and your brain will say, well, that tastes really good because of the chemicals they put on it. But the vibration of that food is as low as the base as possible. If you made the same, like a potato chip, if you made a potato chip yourself and salted it and flavored it, you're going to eat that potato chip. You're going to go, oh man, this is way better than the ones you buy in the store. Well, it is. The ones you buy in the store have more chemicals in it. And when you taste that, when you first eat the first few, it's going to taste really good. But once you get that monosodium glutamate on your tongue after eating a few chips, if you don't change and rinse that monosodium glutamate off of that's why they want you to dip it in something else, because they want you to get a different flavor. If you don't change the flavor, eventually you stop eating the chip because it doesn't taste as good as it did when you first put it in there. Why? Because the monosodium glutamate's not working anymore. Okay, so you have to get that out of your palate and taste something else to get your brain's attention onto another flavor. And then when you put that chip in there, you go, oh yeah, these are good. Okay, the truth is they don't taste good. They taste like cardboard. but you don't know that because they have a flavor enhancer that is convincing your brain, your palate in your mouth that it tastes good. If you made that exact same thing, you're not going to use all those chemicals, so it's going to taste more real. And I prove this, and if you want to have a simple way of proving it to yourself, I do this and I use the peanut butter, okay? Whatever peanut butter you use, if you're not already using pure peanut butter, and you say, oh, no, this is the best peanut butter on the face of the earth. My mom said that when I moved in here to take care of them. They were eating something like Jif or Skippy or one of those. And I said, it's mostly sugar and salt. It doesn't even taste like peanuts. You just don't know it. And they were like, oh, no, that's crap. This is real peanut butter. It tastes really good. So I went to the store and I bought, and there's only like one company that sells it here in America under two different brands, Laura Scudder's and Old Fashioned. Some other companies are starting to do it now. They have Old Fashioned peanut butter. Read the ingredients. If the ingredients are more than peanuts, salt, or peanuts and peanut oil, if there's more than 3 ingredients, then you're going to have sugars and fillers and crap. If you get peanut butter that you have to stir up by hand, because if you get one that's already stirred up, even though it says old fashioned, read the ingredients. You're going to find that it has fillers and crap in it to make it soft and to keep the oil into the peanut butter. And it's already, they say old fashioned, already stirred. It's genetically modified to make that happen. So if you get one, you read the ingredients and it has 3 ingredients: peanuts, salt, and sometimes peanuts and salt and peanut oil. That's it. You have to stir that thing up. Do that, and then taste your peanut butter, the one that you love. And after you have that one stirred, right after you've tasted your peanut butter, taste that other peanut butter, and you're going to go, oh my God, this is what peanut butter is supposed to taste like, because that's actual peanut butter. Then read the ingredients that you have that's a paragraph long on your peanut butter. I tell people the same thing with organic food as opposed to non-organic food. And I've done that with whatever. I'll go, what do you like? What is your best fruit? Oh, I like bananas. I like oranges. I like pears. Okay, I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to get you one generic one that's just a simple, banana. Then I'm going to get you an organic banana that's going to be half the size of that other banana, right? And then here, slice of banana. Here's your banana. You see me doing it, so I'm not tricking you. I'm not lying to you. Same thing. Take a bite of your banana. Oh, yeah, that's my banana. I love that stuff. Now take a bite of this organic banana. Oh my God, that tastes completely different. Yeah, now it tastes like real banana. That's my point. So you're supposed to learn these things as you start to ascend, that there's a difference in energy level from these things that changes your perspective of how you look at food. It's supposed to do that with everything you do, what you listen to as music, what you watch on television and in movies, what books you read. All of your tastes will change as you start to ascend away from low vibrational stuff that you didn't realize you were doing out of habit and anger and fear. Okay, and this is the underlining message that is being told to you today in the beginning of that message that is showing you your alignment of your chakras and starting to work with crystals. But Ra doesn't say any of that, and I was only focusing on what I was focusing on as I was going. So you asking me this question to give you the recap, you're actually getting more information right now that when you now go back, if you do, and listen to what I was talking about, you're going to go, oh, wow, I get where that Ra was saying that, but Leo's not even mentioning that as he's going. But now you kind of have an idea as to why that was. Let me see what you guys were talking about here. Wait, let me finish with what do we have left on this? 30 seconds. I'm going to let this play out to the end here, okay?
By this instrument as it is used in the stronger form for the physical healing. Is there any short query further before we close? 29.34 Questioner. Is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact? Ra, I am Ra. You are conscientious. The entity is well aligned. I am Ra. I leave you now in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite creator. Adonai.
Okay, so, right, I'm looking at what you guys are saying here in the chat now, right? So Simone was talking about, or Simon, I said Simone, talking about, the Chinese they took away the MSG, but they used to put it in everything. And that was it was something from a long time ago, 1,000 years ago or so, when they found out that it was a flavor enhancer. And I don't know if they were consciously aware of what it was doing to the brain. There are a lot of things, like Dr. Oz, when he had his show, he showed where there is a fruit that if you put it in your mouth, it's not actually harmful to humans, but if you put this fruit in your mouth, and it's actually sour, anything you eat after that is going to be the best you've ever tasted. Right. And it's not MSG, but it has the same effect on your palate. But when you first bite, you go, oh, wow. But then when you take something that you already ate, and then he did that live on his show where he literally would say, here, take a bite of this. And people would, and they would go, yeah, that's this. And he would go, okay, now clear your palate, drink some water. Now take a bite of this. And they did it to him. And he was like, oh, that's sour. Right. But now before you clear your palate, now take a bite of that same thing. And all of a sudden you're like, what? That is like way better, because it was there was something that it did that acted just like MSG, monosodium glutamate. It acted the same way to your brain with that sour flavor. The flavor that you were getting, there was an enzyme that was in that fruit that was sour that made your brain, because it was a defensive mechanism to get people to eat the fruit. So the fruit was there, and the only reason we ate it is like eating a kiwi, if you've ever had one. A kiwi is sweet and sour at the same time. So it has that same enzyme. When you bite into it, you go, oh, that's sour, but man, was that good. There was something in that, and there's a lot of fruit naturally are that way, and it's not because they're poisonous and the fruit's trying to kill you. It's because it is trying to give you, and that has to do with giving you something that's sweet and sour at the same time, because we have a taste for that. That's why the Chinese make sweet and sour like pork and chicken and all of that. We humans have a taste for sweet and sour like hot and cold. So, but yeah, and then what was it was said here that your folks brought stuff back from the Caribbean and it looked completely different. Simon said that my folks brought back fruit. Would come back from the Caribbean and it would look totally different than the stuff in the supermarkets. Yeah, because the stuff in the supermarkets and the superstores were all genetically modified to be bigger, to look beautiful. And a buddy of mine who he's an American. He grew up here in America and was a truck driver, and he retired and went to the Philippines. Literally told me that everybody in the Philippines they're all beautiful and they're all healthy, because the Philippines is a poor nation, unlike America, and they don't have the money for all the bullshit pesticides and enhancements that we have in the West and all of our food. So they eat organic, and they have to, you have to go to the store. You can't do like you can here and buy a month's worth of food and still have it and get like apples, oranges, and bananas that last 2 weeks. You get the apples, oranges, and bananas you're going to eat today, or maybe today and tomorrow, maybe a day or two before they go bad. And that's the way it is around the world, because they don't have the crap to keep things alive as long as they do here in the developed countries, so-called. And you're eating crap food because of it. So you're supposed to realize these things is the point of what Raw's talking about. But Raw doesn't say that in here. Raw's alluding to it by talking to Dawn about the crystallization of your chakras and the spiritual that literally the gravitational pull of everything, but this planet specifically, but everything that is any kind of world, any kind of sphere, any kind of planet is directly related to the spirituality of the entities, the beings that make up the planetary body and that reside on it, in it, or wherever. So that's why you have less gravitational pull on the moon than you do on the earth. Why? There's not as many people on there, not as many beings there. But it's going to have a gravitational pull in and of itself, because the entire structure is alive, because everything is alive. Even your car is kind of alive, because that was a rock that you've melted down and put into, and plastic that you've melted down and put into a different shape, that you have turned into a device that you drive. These glasses are alive. That's sand turned into glass and then polished a certain way so that I can read. And this is plastic that is a byproduct of oil, which came from the body of a dinosaur when it died and fell into the earth and got compressed, and it turned into ooze, turned into goo. That goo is oil. And when you took that oil and pulled out those things that turned into our petroleum, our petrol and gasoline, what's left over is this plastic. That's the part that's left over. And then we molded that into something that was alive. Do you see? So the first step in the realization is to start to realize that everything is alive. This house that I'm living in is built of wood. That was a tree. That was alive. It's not currently, but it still has a vibration. So it is currently alive, but it's not the tree that it was before. right? So it's not one entity that it was before, but it's still part of it. It's still alive. And it'll stay that way until, because it never dies. And even if this house burns down, then it burns and turns into something else, becomes either charcoal, and it releases part of itself in the energy into the flame, the fire, into gases. Nothing dies. Everything is energy. It just transmutes, changes into another form of energy. That's it. And you should know that by the internal combustion engine. We're taking the gasoline and smashing it and with shooting a spark at it and smashing it, and that creates a spark. It blows up, and that explosion creates electricity, and that electricity gets caught and collected, and then runs your vehicle. Okay, so it's just changing the energy into something else. But there is infinite energy in the universe, and this is the beginning of the progression, is what this session is talking about, into tapping into unlimited energy. And that's what the progression of this session is starting to show by Dawn's questions. The answers that he was getting from Ra were starting to move even Dawn into that higher vibration. So this is literally the theme. So if you do go back and listen, you'll hear more and understand more about what I'm saying leading up to where we are now. Okay, so if you guys have any other questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to end because we are at about 5:15, right? So I'm sure you guys a lot of you stuff are talking to each other, right? Yeah, stopped eating McDonald's. This is Simon saying again. Stopped eating McDonald's because I would get full for about 10 minutes. Yeah, and then you'd get hungry again. That's because you would have the carb influx that you got from the potatoes. So you would get energy, and that's a quick energy. It's a sugar. So you'd burn through it really quickly, and there was nothing there to sustain any length of time. And the meat itself was very low vibration. The bun that you got, that the meat is sitting on, is mostly sugar and salt and fillers. So there's hardly any sustenance to it. So that's what we call low vibration, and it's third dimensional vibration because it's part of what they want you to do, and that's be stuck in this third dimension and have low energy and to be close to your lizard brain, as close as they can get you in there without you running around and murdering people. But they want to have you real close so that they can push you over the edge whenever they need you to. And that's where they try to keep you. So they try to keep you that way with the food that they give you. They try to make the food as low energy as possible so that you don't ascend. That is literally part of the narrative that the Anunnaki, what you call the Anunnaki, when they got here, they were the Orion Crusaders, but they came down and said that they were the creator gods of the people down here. They gave information over to the Moldekians, who eventually came here as the Atlanteans in Atlantis, and that's who all of these people secretly will tell you that they're related to. That's why I mentioned early on about the obelisks coming out of Egypt, because that was where their seat of power was until they needed to move it. And then they did, and now they've shifted to the whole world. Once they lost the war, which they claimed they defeated the evil gods, that was when they got their asses kicked and their ships were scuttled and they couldn't leave the country. They couldn't leave the world anymore. They were stranded here. So that's the narrative they're trying to teach you, that, there's these overlords and you're in a prison, in a penal colony. Because for them, it was. Okay? Because they were here, they were living here amongst the human population at the time, and they were a more advanced civilization, and they were doing evil, and some of the people didn't like it, and they had a civil war, and the evil people, they claim, because history is written by those who conquer, they claim we drove off the evil gods and defeated them, and now we have the planet. No, what happened was they got their asses kicked, and they were marooned here. When they tried to murder off the human race, to get rid of the human race, the other people in their society went to war with them and decimated their ranks, and then stranded them here on this earth, and they left. And their penance for doing what they did was to be stranded here on earth, and they had to then interbreed with the humans that survived to survive and repopulate the earth. Okay, this is information that you'll hear from other people that are saying the same thing that I'm saying. And those people who are saying that are the ones who have unlocked that knowledge. You can believe it or not, doesn't matter. When you ascend and start to unlock this knowledge, all of what I'm saying to you becomes apparent. You will then go, wow, this is actually what happened, because you actually tap into that record and you can watch the video. Okay, you can literally watch the video, but the first time you do that, you think you are them. That's why there's so many people that are like, I am Mother Mary. Well, yeah, your specific soul wasn't, but you have the memory of it because you tapped into that. That's supposed to expand your consciousness. And then some of them are or were, right? And there's a few people that I know that were actually, and they're separated now, but they aren't aware of that. And they don't realize that like 2 or 3 of them that are alive currently on this earth that are living in the same country are actually one soul. Some people have done that. If you look in time, I can point one out. It's an obvious one. If you look into China, in between the year 463 and 461 BCE, in China, there were 2 souls that existed at the exact same time that talked about the exact same thing, that were 2 complete different men who never met. The Buddha and Lao Tzu, who wrote the Tao Te Ching, the Book of the Way. Those 2 people were alive in China at the same time. And when you go back in time and ask the Chinese when exactly were they alive at the exact same moment in 2 different provinces in China. And they had the exact same message that have come out of that. And 2 religions have been made on it, and they're identical in their message. Those 2 peoples were one soul. Okay. Some of us are aware of that. And that soul has been here 12 times. 12 different places on this earth at 12 different times as 12 individuals, and all of them were one soul. Some of us know that. And I can tell you that, but whether you believe me or not, and I can tell you who they were, but to hear it will scare you. Some people are not ready for it. And I say it and they're like, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay. But there's other people, and it's not just me saying these things. And I didn't read that somewhere and then go, wow. And then believe it. That's what people always do. You read that, and so now you believe it because somebody brainwashed you. No. I came to that conclusion and then realized other people were saying it too. That's usually what happens. Most of us who are doing these things I was unveiled when I was born, so I didn't have time to read. As I was growing up, I was hearing other people who were saying things that I already thought. And I was like, well, I think that. So maybe that person knows what they're talking about. And that was validation for me. So it wasn't that I read it somewhere in my life. These are things that I thought everybody knew until I realized nobody knew it. And then I started finding people who did. And when I started looking into those people, I started realizing that those people had some knowledge that was better than other people had. And then I started looking for those types of people on this earth throughout history to find out if these people existed and how many of them did and how many are out there. And then I started realizing that most of them hide from the population. And then I started trying to figure out why. And my father was already telling me I needed to do the same thing. And now I know why. But as a little boy, I didn't understand, well, why can't I just tell everybody this knowledge? They need to know it. I'm going to tell them eventually because you're a child. No one's going to listen to you, and they're all going to try and stop you. You will only be able to do this when you are able to not allow them to stop you anymore. Okay, so you have to physically catch up to where you are mentally. You have to physically catch up to a place where you can physically take care of yourself so that when they try to stifle you, they won't just come and grab you and stop you because they won't have that ability. They'll have to harm you or kill you to stop you. So you have to know what you need to know to get to that place to protect yourself. And now I've been teaching that to people. Okay. So whether you believe me or not, doesn't matter. I don't, and I tell everybody you shouldn't believe a word that I say. You should look everything up that I say. Don't believe a word I say. Assume that I'm lying to you for some purpose you haven't uncovered yet. And look up everything that I say, because as soon as you start doing that, the better off you're going to be, because you're going to not believe anything anyone says to you, and you're going to question everything that everybody says to you, and you're going to look it all up for yourself. And when you do that, you're going to start asking questions, because you can't do that without asking questions. And asking your questions are going to get you answers and more questions than you can possibly ever answer. But you're going to constantly, if you have the drive, you're going to constantly keep asking questions. And if you do, you're going to start your ascension, and you're going to start getting more and more and more and more knowledge. But it'll only unlock to you if you're not evil. The second you want to use it for your own power, control, money, or anything like that, it will cease to allow you to have any more information. Just the way the laws of the universe are set up. That's why evil people don't want you knowing about it, because you can gain a knowledge they can't gain. So to control you, they have to keep you dumber than them. That is the modus operandi of the Orion Crusaders, which you know as the Anunnaki, or the Cabal, or the Deep State, or the Bilderbergers, or whatever, the Skull and Bones, whatever you know as these secret societies around the world that you think are controlling the planet. You're right about those. And they call themselves many different things. The Illuminati, they call themselves many different things. And they, depending on the country that they're at, they have to have a different name, because they have to keep everybody thinking that they're just some little teeny group over here that is nothing. They can't have you thinking they're this entire organization that is worldwide, because for you to know that is the end of their control, the beginning of the end. That was what, if you ever watched Stargate SG-1 or Stargate the movie, that was what that was about. That's why Ra left the Earth. And when Ra came back and the humans went to Abydos, Ra had to destroy all the people that were there, because the infection of questioning and knowledge had infected the people of Abydos. The humans that they took and removed from Earth and put onto Abydos when Ra had to leave Earth in that pantheon, in that television show. That didn't happen in real history. But evil people have to do that. They have to stifle everybody's knowledge, because knowledge is the one thing they can't have you knowing, because you start asking questions. And when you start asking questions, they have to stifle you, because if they don't, you're going to see through them eventually, and then they can't control you anymore. So they have to keep you dumber than them, so they can keep mind tricking you, or Jedi mind tricking you, or gaslighting you. So they have to keep you at a level, which is where most humans are on this earth, which is about 11 years old mentally. That's the actual fact. If you look up what the IQ test, if you ask Google what's the IQ test based on, they'll say it's based on a series of questions that tests your intelligence quotient. Don't do that. Look up the very first IQ test, or the very first IQ research that the IQ test is based on, and read that. And that will tell you that the average human being has an IQ that makes them mentally maturely at 11 years of age on average. Okay. And I used to say, oh, well, you're under the age of 18. No, you're a genius if you are 18 years of age mentally or above, because now you're starting to become an adult. So if you are an adult mentally, you're considered a genius on this earth. And you're supposed to be an adult. Your physical body doesn't make you an adult. Your physical body ages because it's designed to be in this place as a vessel. It doesn't make you wise. It doesn't make you anything other than, I have physically been in a body this long. It doesn't mean that you're intelligent. It doesn't mean that you're wise. Well, wisdom comes with experience. But if your experience is only the child's experience and you never get to know anything besides that, that's the allegory of the cave. If you've ever taken a class on sociology, mythology, philosophy, if you're in America and you've taken a philosophy 101 class, you know about the allegory of the cave, or the allegory of a tree. If a tree falls in the woods and there's no one there to hear it, does it make sound? The allegory of the cave is perception, and what your perception is your reality. That's in the beginning of philosophy. Your perception is your reality. We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. You see things as you are. That was translated into, if you saw Star Wars movies, when Obi-Wan Kenobi was talking to Luke Skywalker after he was dead, and he said, Luke, you have to realize that all the truths we cling to are directly related to a certain point of view. That was George Lucas's version of the allegory of the cave, telling you your perception is not reality. Your perception is your perception. Okay? That becomes your reality. Your perception becomes your reality, and you have to realize that. And they know that. The modus operandi of evil people is to know that your perception, becomes your reality. So all they have to do is give you the perception that they want. And that's the little pine cone in the hand controlling your pineal gland. They're giving you the perception of the reality they want you to see. And then that becomes your reality because you believe it, because they tell you that's all that there is. That is the modus operandi of what's happening to you on this planet. Right? Oh, hey, what's up, brother? I just happened to look down and I see, hey, Leo. And now I put on my glasses. It's Omar. Watchers Talk. Welcome. What's up, brother? So how you doing, bro? I decided to pop in. I'm about to get off the air. You popped in just as I'm about to get off the air. So what are you up to? Welcome aboard. So let me do a commercial. So tomorrow at noon p.m. Western Hemisphere of the United States or Canada, 12 p.m. That's 3 p.m. East Coast time. That's 12 p.m. is GMT -8 these days. Is we're going to be live on Jacqueline Taylor's show on Izzy Kelly's channel on Facebook, on Jacqueline Taylor's channel on YouTube. And there's going to be at least Jacqueline Taylor, myself. I'm going to be a guest. I believe that Jacob Waters is going to be on there, as well as Joey, and I don't know who else, but everybody's welcome. I don't know who anybody like Cassie, if she's here, if she wants to come on and talk. I'd love to get Anna and Mel out there to talk. But we're going to be on for an hour or two tomorrow, live on that show to talk about spirituality in a higher fashion than I'm doing here now, talking about the law of one. However the conversation goes. So who knows what we'll be talking about. And then Sunday, Jacqueline always does the last Sunday of every month. We have an intention group that gets together to put intentions out to the world. So that's also, I don't know what time that is. So you guys tune in tomorrow if you want to be a part of that. Everybody's welcome to come into that too. We all get together. It's like a little prayer group. If you're a Christian and you go to Bible study, it's like that, only we're not going to have a Bible and we're not going to be reading, but we're all going to get together. We decide on what our intentions are to put out to the universe, to the planet, or for the well-being of the world. And then we meditate on that for a few minutes. And then we all talk about our meditation and our intentions. And then we sometimes talk about what we're going to do next month. So if you guys want to do that we usually do that for an hour, and that'll be Sunday. And I don't remember the time. So tune in tomorrow at noon West Coast America time, and you'll find out what that time is for Sunday. And I forgot about that until today when Jacqueline said, don't forget that Sunday is the intention as well. And I forgot the last 2 months, even after being told. So I'm going to try and put that into my brain calendar so that I remember to do that as well. So you guys might want to tune into those. Otherwise, I'll be back next Friday, and we'll be talking more of the law of one, which, like I said, is getting off of topic. But when you guys, the law of one, I'll probably be stopping. We'll find out once my book comes out. I'll be touring that and talking about that a lot more. But a lot of what you're getting in with the law of one is glimpses into my book that's upcoming that the editors are working on now. I have no idea how long it's going to take. I was hoping to get it out before the end of this year, but it doesn't look like that. So it's going to be January, February. Depends on how long it takes us to go back and forth on the editing, because it always takes a few times through the editing to get the wording properly. So I have no idea when the book's going to come out. We'll find out when it does. But it is going to be titled the Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. And that will be coming out as soon as the editors get done and I proof it and agree to it. And then we publish it. So look forward to that in the future. And I'll be talking about that as time goes, letting you guys know when that book will be coming out. And that's going to blow the lid off of the world even more than I already am doing now, because I'm literally showing you the modus operandi of what they're up to and what they're doing. So that'll be cool to take a look at that. And I don't know how many books I'm going to write. I already know that I have at least 2 more. And I've had psychics tell me it's either going to be 5 or 8. I don't know. I'm not sure. Jacqueline is doing the same. She'll be on tomorrow. She's writing a book. I do know that one of us is going to write 5 and the other is going to write 8. So I don't know. And she's doing like I did, she's backing off of the book and doing what she's doing. And they keep pushing her, just like Cassie was saying earlier, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. So they keep, and then I'm talking to Jacqueline going, when are you going to get your book into an editor? And she's like, leave me alone, Leo. I'm doing what I'm doing. So I don't know when her book's going to come out either, but I know that she's writing it, and her book makes my book look like I'm talking to children. So some of the stuff that she's saying is really high vibration. She gets so excited about it that she starts to cry. So you should see her tomorrow. She gets so emotionally attached to how beautiful all of this is that's happening that she just starts to tear up with joy from her heart. And it's, some people can't take that. All right, guys, I love you guys. I'm going to go. Like I said, it's now 5:30. And I got to do dinner for my mom and myself. But I love you guys, and tune in either tomorrow, and I'll share this out in the same places like wherever you found me now, unless you're listening on the MP3 broadcast. But then I'll probably, if I can get the recording, I'll also publish that under Jacqueline's name on my MP3 file. So if you guys out there in the world are listening to my podcast, a lot of the stuff that I've done for Jacqueline and her show is not there, including what I did on Jake's show last week. A week ago, Wednesday, I was on Jake's show, and that's only on YouTube and Facebook because I don't have a recording of it, and I can steal it and rip the MP3. I just haven't done it because of the holiday. I mean, let's consider, today's literally the day after Thanksgiving if you're an American. All right. So, all right, guys. Yeah, I love you guys, and I will either see Karen. You showed up too. Welcome, Karen. You guys are all getting here right at the end of the show. I'm glad that you even tuned in on Black Friday, right? If you're on the North American continent or anywhere where the cabal runs the place, then you got the holiday season starting, and they're ramping up because they want to make money, and this is when they turn a profit. So if you're in Europe or America or the North American continent or the Western Europe and Northern Europe, all of that is designed to, because of their religion is power, money, and control, and part of that is retail. So they need to have the resale sales to make their corporations make money. And that means the holiday season, because that's where they make all their money in the 3 month time period of the world. The last 3 months of the world is of the planet of our calendar. So October, November, December is where they make 99% of all their money for the year. Retail loses their butts off all the rest of the time. So if you're anywhere where they are in control, even you guys down under, you know what I'm talking about. And I guess everybody really runs on that schedule, even the Chinese. So, but if you're in China, you're listening to me on some app that's probably not proven to be hearing what I'm saying, unless you're on TikTok. Because if you're on TikTok, you can listen to me on, because I post some of my stuff on there. All right, guys, I love you guys. Have a great night. I will see you guys next week or tomorrow. I'll be on there with Jacqueline on her show, and then back on there. But on Sunday we don't go live. So those of you who want to tune in for the intention group, we're not live when we're doing that. We're just in the studio in Zoom, and so it's a private meeting that we do. But tomorrow will be a broadcast for you guys to tune in and ask questions there of not just me but other people that are going to be there to talk. All right, guys, I love you guys. Have a great night. This has been Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show. I'll see you guys later.